Chapter 3551. Crack, 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 crack. Young Master Yao stretched his neck and cracked his knuckles as he looked down at the crowd. Crack, crack. At this moment, the joints of his fingers that had been pulled by him were also making popping sounds. For a moment, the entire void was silent. Experts like Du Qiu and Lord Long also turned their attention to young Beast Lord. In the end, they looked at young Master Yao, Prince Emojin, and Lin Ling. The three of them were said to be the leaders of the God Slayer Alliance. Today, they were united against all the experts of the Evilla. Could it be that the God Slayer Alliance wanted to tell the world that they were not only outstanding in the 9 prefectures, but they were also about to step into the final world? All right, the Transcendence Tower is about to begin. However, at this moment, an ancient and majestic aura suddenly appeared in the void. Then, everyone saw a white-haired old man slowly walking over from the distance. His pace did not seem fast, but he appeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. Although he looked old, there was an invisible aura around him. It was like a clear cloud that gave off an extremely strong pressure. God's Paladin. The experts of the Wind Snow Academy and Evilla slowed down their breathing. They knew that this person was definitely a God's Paladin. He might even be an 8-talisman paladin. The old man's aura was still like a formless cloud that quietly spread out. It was as if the entire void was under his control. It's the God of the North. In the 36 academies, the deans and teachers of the various academies spoke solemnly. Many of them had heard of the old man. He was indeed a God's Paladin. It was said that he had always been by the side of the gods and had the right to speak on behalf of the gods. As for the old man's strength, no one was clear about it. Some people said that the God of the North was a martial god. Others said that the God of the North was even more powerful than the 10 martial gods of the 9 prefectures and was a half-deity. There were many different opinions. It could only be said that the God of the North's ultimate strength was a mystery. At this moment, Lin Ling was also looking at the old man, and his heart could not help but turn serious. Up until now, the experts he had seen included martial god Wen Tian, Miao Di, and so on. However, Lin Ling had a feeling that this old man's strength was above theirs. He could be considered the strongest warrior Lin Ling had seen so far. Of course, Lin Ling had also seen treasure god Nanwu Fengyu and god emperor Zhang Gang. However, Lin Ling didn't treat these two as martial artists. They were already gods, so Lin Ling didn't consider them at all. So strong. Looks like I still have a long way to go. Lin Ling's heart was also filled with a strong fighting spirit. The urge to become stronger was also stronger than before. To be able to control the entire void with just one's aura. Who wouldn't yearn for such strength? Who wasn't passionate? Who wouldn't look forward to it? If Lin Ling had such strength, he could easily destroy the Flying Dragon organization and the newly established Heavenly Court. He could even go to the Duan family alone and see if anyone in the Duan family dared to oppose him. He could even face martial god Wen Tian and fight Lily Empress. Rumble. While Lin Ling was thinking, a pure white light spread out from the void like a gauze, interrupting everyone's thoughts. The ethereal tower shone brightly. At this moment, Lord Long's eyes were burning with passion. His world had disappeared, and only the path to godhood remained in his eyes. The ethereal tower. He wanted to surpass the 8th floor and reach the final 9th floor. Du Qiu, Wu Zun, and the others were also burning with passion. At this moment, they had forgotten about their opponents. Their only goal was the ethereal tower. Their eyes were fixed on the 8th floor, as if they wanted to catch up to the miracle of their predecessors and share the glory of their predecessors. Then the two of them looked at young Beast Lord and the others. Although they did not say anything, their intentions were clear. In the battle of the ethereal tower, they wanted to see who could go further. Young Beast Lord and Tyrant Gold's eyes burned with passion. Although they did not say anything, it was clear that they had accepted the challenge. They also wanted to reach the 8th floor and suppress the other geniuses. The ethereal tower is one of the representatives of the 36 academies. It's the path to godhood. I don't know how long it has existed, because it existed the moment I was born. According to the rumors, the ethereal tower is one of the 5 kings of the 9 continents. The god of the northern region said calmly. In the void, the 36 academies' holy halls were silent. No one dared to say anything to interrupt the god of the northern region. The ethereal tower has 9 floors, and each floor has 99 steps. Each step may seem like a simple step, but it hides a whole universe. Every step is a world. Perhaps you can take a gentle step, but you can walk through a whole world and a whole life. Therefore, the ethereal tower is very difficult. Not only does it test one's willpower, will, and talent, it also tests one's cultivation base, the heart of martial arts, and so on. However, the ethereal tower also has great benefits. It can stimulate a cultivator's ultimate potential, greatly increasing their realm, talent, and martial arts experience. Every floor has a large hall. You can rest there for 2 hours. Moreover, each hall has footprints left behind by experts. If you can comprehend them, it will be greatly beneficial to you. If you want to pass the 3 stages of godhood, you have to reach the 555th step. I hope that someone from the 2 academies can break the record of the 8th floor and reach the 9th floor. Of course, I don't know what's on the 9th floor, so I hope that rising stars like you can go and find out. The god of the northern region said calmly, but his gaze quietly fell on Lord Long. He seemed to know that the person most likely to break the record this time was Lord Long. After he finished speaking, he looked at the ethereal tower and muttered something. Rumble. In the void, the ancient white divine pagoda emitted a rumbling sound, and at the bottom of the pagoda, a huge white jade door quietly opened. Whoosh! However, the moment it opened, an ancient divine wind blew out. It was as if the ethereal tower had been closed for millions of years, and now that it opened, the divine wind that had been suppressed for millions of years could finally be released. And this gust of divine wind directly blew the surrounding void. Even the holy palace of the 36th Academy was shaking. As for the experts in the void, the weaker ones immediately turned pale. They felt as if the divine wind was blowing into their flesh and bones, as if it was going to blow away everything about them. Among them, the 3 beauties of the E-Garden turned pale. They hugged their arms and muttered, "It's so cold. Junior sisters, I'm here." Someone wanted to block the divine wind for the 3 beauties of the E-Garden. However, the moment he stepped out, his teeth chattered and his talent shook. He felt as if his soul was going to be blown out of his body. This time, that person lost all face. He didn't dare to show off and could only hide in the crowd with his tail between his legs. Lin Ling, are you all right? Chapter 3552. The key to the assessment. However, when his gaze landed on Lin Ling's body, he discovered that Lin Ling's entire body was pitch black, like a demon and a dragon. Black sludge continuously flowed down from his body like water, allowing Lin Ling to withstand the divine wind. His entire person was unscathed. It seems that Lin Ling's strength has increased greatly during this period of time. He can actually block that ancient divine wind. Majin Tianzi was secretly shocked. Young Master Yao also smiled. He never thought that Lin Ling's defense would be so terrifying. Bang! At that moment, someone walked out of the crowd. One had to know that the best way to fight against the divine wind was to hide in the crowd and use the momentum of the crowd to fight against it. However, at that moment, there was someone who had left the crowd. That person was really brave. The person who walked out was extremely tall and sturdy, but not very tall. It was Lord Long. As for Lord Long, the baleful aura around him was extremely dense. It materialized into an aura that firmly protected Lord Long. Lord Dragon's footsteps did not stop as he walked toward the ancient doors of the Heavenspan Tower. Just as he was about to reach the doors, a beam of light shot out and landed on Lord Dragon's body, transforming into a jade token. Only with the jade token in hand would one be qualified to enter the ethereal tower. Furthermore, if one wished to give up, one could use the jade token to leave the ethereal tower. Of course, through the jade token, the crowd could also see the level of the ethereal tower that the person was on. After Lord Long entered the ethereal tower, another person among the crowd made a move. Ducho! Many people couldn't help but cry out in alarm. At present, many people could only wait for the divine wind to pass before they dared to walk towards the Transcendence Tower. However, Lord Long was an accident, and so was Du Qiu. The most terrifying thing was that Du Qiu's entire body was emitting purple smoke. When the divine wind blew over, it actually made sizzling sounds like boiling water. On the other hand, Du Qiu did not seem to be affected in the slightest. His speed was not much slower than Lord Long's. By the time he arrived at the entrance, he had already obtained a jade token and entered the ethereal tower. Wow! In the holy palace of the 36th Academy, cries of surprise sounded one after another. However, before the cries of surprise ended, a third person walked out. Without a doubt, it was Wu Zun. Compared to the previous two, his speed was slightly slower. Around him, there were gods and Buddhas. Borrowing the light of the gods and Buddhas, he entered the Tongshan Tower. Seeing that the three of them had made their move, young Demon Lord and the others didn't dare to show any weakness, and they all stepped forward. However, at this moment, the divine wind had weakened significantly, and the pressure on them was greatly reduced. They had no choice but to follow the others into the Tongshan Tower. Compared to the fighting spirit of young Master Yao and the others, Lin Ling didn't seem to care at all. He simply followed the group as they proceeded forward. At this moment, his attention was completely drawn to the Tongshan Tower, and his heart was filled with curiosity. After Lin Ling entered the Tongshan Tower, he immediately discovered that the interior of the tower was extremely huge. Rather than calling it a tower, it would be better to call it an entire world. The ancient divine wind howled within the pagoda. Although it was not as ferocious as before, it was still extremely uncomfortable. Looking into the distance, there were countless stairs leading up, as if dragons were trying to soar into the 9 heavens. Upon closer inspection, there were at least 1,000 steps. At this moment, some of the steps had already been stepped onto. Moreover, each step seemed to only be able to accommodate one person. Lin Ling was instantly shocked. This Tongshan Tower was much more mysterious than he had imagined. Next, he randomly chose a step and walked forward. There's a familiar aura in front of this step. This aura seems to be calling out to me. Let's follow this path. Lin Ling muttered to himself as he walked toward one of the steps. However, just as Lin Ling was getting closer and closer to the step, someone else chose the same step as Lin Ling. When Lin Ling looked over, he saw that it was an expert from the Blizzard Academy. I've taken a liking to this step. That expert sneered, as if he felt that there was something he needed on this step. You've taken a liking to it? Sigh. Lin Ling shook his head mockingly. Without wasting any time, he took a step forward and pushed that person away with his strong body. Lin Ling, you. Sigh. That person was shocked. He had never expected Lin Ling to be so domineering. Go and choose another step. I've taken a liking to this step. Go. However, Lin Ling had already stepped onto the step. He did not even look at that person as he spoke. You've got guts. Go. That person was infuriated, but there was nothing he could do. After Lin Ling stepped onto the step, he immediately felt a mysterious energy enveloping his body. Looking around, the steps meandered upward. They did not seem big, but they gave off a feeling that there was no end. At this moment, a melodious wind of the ancient Great Tao blew down from above his head. Moreover, the endless steps gave Lin Ling a feeling that there was no one else in the Tongshan Tower except for him. Lin Ling. How mysterious. Go. Lin Ling was secretly shocked. He took another step forward. After reaching the second step, Lin Ling finally realized how terrifying the Tongshan Tower was. All of his realm essence, ancestral power, talent power, and physical strength had been sealed. Moreover, these powers continued to disappear. Although the speed was not fast, the power that disappeared could not be replenished. The most obvious was Lin Ling's physical strength. His recovery ability had always been strong, but at this moment, even his physical strength could not be recovered. It was as if someone had set down a taboo in the Tongshan Tower. No matter how powerful a martial artist was, they would have to abide by the rules of the Tongshan Tower. Amazing. Yes. Lin Ling's heart shook. He did not casually move forward. He had a feeling that when he reached the third step, the power would be even stronger. All kinds of powers are disappearing. This means that the higher one goes, the faster the powers will disappear. Without realm essence, one would have to endure the powerful divine wind of the Tongshan Tower. If one is unlucky, one might even be blown to death. Yes, and this is a test of one's foundation. If one's cultivation is high, they can last longer. Yes, and if one's talent is high, they can last longer until everything is exhausted. Yes, in that case, those with high cultivation and talent will be able to go further. Yes. Lin Ling stood quietly, constantly analyzing. No, soul power is also disappearing. It's just that it's disappearing very slowly. That's why I did not notice it before. Heavens! This Tongshan Tower is too amazing. Could it be that it wants to turn martial artists into mortals? All their powers will disappear, and they will eventually become mortals? Heavens! Lin Ling's heart rumbled. He finally knew what the Tongshan Tower's test was. realm essence, physical strength, talent, ancestral power, soul power, martial heart, and perseverance. All the essential factors of a martial artist would be absorbed by the Tong Shan Tower, turning martial artists into mortals. And what martial artists had to do was to reach the 9th step before they became mortals. This Transcendence Tower seems to be beneficial to me. Although my cultivation level isn't the highest, I have 5 dantians. I can let the Transcendence Tower slowly devour my world essence. Moreover, I have the strength of my physical body, soul force, and several other great talents. With this, I should be able to endure until I reach a higher level. Heavens! And passing the 3 trials of the Shan Tower is to reach the 555th step. Perhaps with my various trump cards, I might be able to pass smoothly. Heavens! Lin Ling's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 3553. An expert who joined halfway. In the void beside the Tong Shan Tower, stars appeared one after another, indicating which level the experts in the Tong Shan Tower had reached. Lord Long, Step 117. Wu Zun, Step 101. Du Chou, Step 92. Surprisingly, Wu Zun was faster than Du Chou. After all, Du Chou was ranked second in this assessment. As for Lord Long, no one was surprised that he was first. Everyone knew that he had already passed the first level and was heading to the second level. Then they looked at the following people. Yao Shao, Step 77. Ma Jing Tianzi, Step 69. The 3 Beauties of the E-Garden, Step 52. Yi Yehua, Step 44. Lin Ling, Step 3. Everyone's steps were clearly displayed. As for Lin Ling, everyone ignored him. Although Lin Ling had created a miracle with his sage stage strength, many people knew that the defensive assessment of the tower was based on a cultivator's foundation. Lin Ling's cultivation level was low, and he was weaker than the others above the Xiantian realm. Therefore, it would be a miracle if he could pass the assessment. Therefore, everyone's attention was on experts like Lord Long. Lord Long is amazing. Who knows, he might be able to break the previous record and reach the 9th level. I'm not sure if he can break the previous record. However, if he can reach the 8th level like the previous record, it will cause a sensation in all 36 academies. I have high hopes for him because he has 2 hours to rest on the first level. Although the recovery speed is slow on the first level, it's still better than not recovering at all. The teachers and deans of the various academies started discussing. In the sky, the god of the north stood quietly. He was the only one in the entire sky. However, at this moment, the sky was forcefully torn apart, and 2 figures slowly walked over. Duan lineage martial god? The god of the north was surprised to see the newcomers. Sorry, I'm late. Today, someone from the Duan family also wanted to skip the 3rd level. I hope that the god of the north will give us some face. The person who came was the Duan clan, the number 1 clan in the world. The person who spoke was the Duan lineage martial god. The god of the northern region fell silent when he heard this. However, the Duan lineage martial god smiled. His lips moved slightly, and a few soundless words floated out. Looking at the Duan lineage martial god's lips, the god of the northern region's expression changed slightly. He said solemnly, I didn't expect you, the Duan lineage martial god, to be able to ask that lord to speak. You are really amazing. It was obvious that someone had stepped forward on behalf of the Duan lineage martial god. Moreover, this person's background was so great that the god of the northern region didn't dare to refuse. Hee, I don't have that much face. It was Luli Empress who made that lord speak, and Luli Empress also gave me some face. The Duan lineage martial god smiled proudly. Luli Empress, I see. The god of the northern region nodded in realization. He finally understood why that lord had spoken. It was Luli Empress. Who are you inviting to the ethereal tower? The god of the northern region looked at the Duan lineage martial god and asked. My Duan family's bloodline, Duan Wuhan, a 4-talisman god paladin, an expert on the god ranking list. However, he has never gone through the 3 tests, so he is qualified to enter. The Duan lineage martial god looked behind him and saw a young man with a cold expression. It was Duan Wuhan, a 4-talisman god paladin, an expert on the god ranking list. The god of the northern region was surprised. Generally speaking, experts who had passed the 3 tests would enter the god ranking list. However, Duan Wuhan had actually become an expert on the god ranking list without going through the 3 tests. It was really strange. However, Duan Wuhan was a 4-talisman god paladin at such a young age. This meant that there was someone behind Duan Wuhan, or he had done something to make a big shot happy, so an exception was made for him to become a 4-talisman god paladin. Therefore, it wasn't strange for someone to become an expert on the god ranking list without going through the 3 tests. To put it bluntly, it was a backdoor. Of course you can. However, since he is already an expert on the god ranking list, isn't it a little unnecessary to take another test? The god of the northern region didn't refuse, but he still smiled. Is that so? Hearing this, the Duan lineage martial god smiled proudly and looked at the young man behind him. The young man immediately took the order and took a step forward. A palm-sized vortex immediately appeared between his eyebrows. This vortex seemed simple, but it seemed to carry the law of the world. It was so majestic that it made people feel as if their lives were about to leave their bodies. Heaven's fate wheel? Seeing this, the god of the northern region's expression changed drastically. Yes, the first bloodline of our Duan family. The Duan lineage martial god nodded proudly. The Duan family was the world's largest family. They had countless bloodlines, but according to legend, the first bloodline was the most powerful. It was also the bloodline of the gods. This was because the first-generation ancestor of the Duan family was a top god in the era of the gods. He had a longer history than the Duan lineage martial god. His bloodline was also called the first bloodline. However, among the countless descendants of the Duan family, there were very few people who had this kind of pure bloodline. The first bloodline was undoubtedly the heir of the Duan family's ancestor. Perhaps his bloodline is purer than mine. The Duan lineage martial god said again. The god of the northern region's heart jumped violently. The bloodline of the Duan lineage martial god was already very pure, so he became one of the top 10 martial gods in the 9 regions. If the bloodline was purer than his, the potential was really terrifying. If the bloodline grew up smoothly, he might surpass the top 10 martial gods in the 9 regions. Could it be the legendary divine fetus? The god of the northern region secretly guessed. My descendant originally had an ordinary bloodline, but not long ago, he met a god. He was shocked by the god's aura, so he was lucky enough to awaken the first bloodline. The Duan lineage martial god said proudly. He wasn't bragging about this. In the starry sky forest, if they hadn't met a god who had awakened, and Duan Wuhan was shocked by the god's aura, he wouldn't have awakened the first bloodline. If Lin Ling was here, he would definitely know that the god was the Steel Slayer Emperor. Well, you go and participate. The god of the northern region finally understood the intention of the Duan lineage martial god. Now that Duan Wuhan had the first bloodline, the Duan family would definitely train him with all their strength. Therefore, the road that Duan Wuhan had walked before or not, the Duan family would let him walk again to see where Duan Wuhan's potential was. Thank you, Senior. Duan Wuhan suddenly smiled faintly. Although the god of the northern region was an extremely powerful master, in the face of such a master, he could still face him calmly. It seemed that he would definitely catch up with this master in the future. Then he looked at the white divine tower in the distance again. The 8th floor, the current highest record? Unfortunately, I, Duan Wuhan, am here. I, Duan Wuhan, will definitely set foot on the 9th floor. I heard that the most powerful one this time is Lord Long. Unfortunately, for me, he is just a clay chicken. Chapter 3554. 70 Steps in One Breath. Rumble. At the same time, the doors of the Transcendence Tower opened once more. Divine winds howled, but Duan Wuhan was fearless. With his hands behind his back, he walked into the Transcendence Tower. This caused the people of the 36 academies to break out in discussion. It was strange that someone would enter the Transcendence Tower at this time. However, they did not have any objections. Firstly, the god of the north had agreed. Secondly, they believed that person only wanted to enter the god list, nothing more. The martial god of the Duan lineage looked at the disappearing Duan Wuhan with a smile on his face. Their Duan family's number 1 bloodline had awakened. Just wait for the final world to tremble. The Transcendence Tower was Duan Wuhan's first step in his rise. Next, Duan Wuhan would break all the records in the final world to attract the attention of the gods and become a trial taker. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. In the void, the stars shone brightly. No one stared at the twinkling stars, wanting to see who would reach the peak. Without a doubt, the current number 1 was Lord Long. This person was truly terrifying. He had actually reached the 272nd step. This meant that he had passed the second step and was moving towards the third. Lord Long's talent and cultivation realm were not weak. Under the continuous absorption of the Transcendence Tower, his body emitted a dim aura. This dim aura was extremely powerful, causing Lord Long to be like a walking corpse. He forgot to eat and sleep, like the most determined martial arts fanatic. The bloodline of the god of sadness. Someone in the 36 academies muttered to himself. The god of sadness was an extremely strange existence. He was a sentimental person who had once been dumped by a goddess. Because of love, he entered the Tao. He had been dim for 990,000 years. In these 990,000 years, he was like a walking corpse. His entire being was in a strange state. However, when this dim aura erupted, he could erupt with a strength 100 times greater than his own. Some people said that this might be the power of love. Love, this word, there were many people who could not see through it. There were even more who could not study it. It was not strange for one to erupt with a strength 100 times greater because of love. Of course, no one would have thought that the arrogant and unruly Lord Long was actually a sentimental person. All of a sudden, Lord Long's footsteps came to a halt. It was as if he was trying to comprehend something, or as if he had fallen into some sort of emotional state. However, the ethereal tower was still absorbing all of the energy in his body. Below him, what was shocking was that the second place was Wu Zun. This person had reached the 211th step. As for Wu Zun, the Arhat's light on his body was extremely dense. It was constantly being absorbed by the Tongshan Tower, allowing him to hold on for a very long time. Dharma breathing technique, Bodhi mantra, indestructible Vajra divine body. This Wu Zun has already grasped the ultimate techniques of the Buddha gods. Is that the divine body of Dharma Arhat? Many people were discussing spiritedly. They didn't expect Wu Zun to have such a strong foundation. After the 3 stages of the divine realm are over, I will take this Wu Zun as my disciple. In the garden, a teacher smiled faintly. You're already too slow. Before the 3 trials began, I had already talked to Wu Zuni for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, he agreed to become my disciple. But soon another teacher chuckled, causing the face of the previous teacher to darken. As for the 3rd place, there was no need to guess further. It was none other than Du Cho. This person's body was filled with poison. It was said that he had been consuming poison for thousands of years. Any poison in the 9 prefectures was ineffective against him. His talent was the Transcendence 100 Zombies body, a poison body that dominated the ultimate desolate body. He had the power to cause the poison of 10,000 worlds to erupt with a wave of his hand. Of course, with Du Chao's strength, no one was surprised that he was ranked 3rd. What was surprising was that the person ranked 4th was actually Prince Ma Jin. This person was also a terrifying freak. His talent seemed ordinary, but his body was made of powerful metal. In the Tongshan Tower, his body was constantly being absorbed and gradually disappearing. However, he was able to continuously recover. It was truly strange. This Prince Ma Jin doesn't seem human. That's right. I heard that he was crippled by Du Cho. Back then, all his limbs were broken and his entire body was submerged in poison. I never expected him to recover in such a short period of time. I don't think he's human. He looks more like a puppet. People realized that Prince Ma Jin was only a dozen steps away from Du Cho. It was as though he would surpass Du Cho at any moment. Perhaps Prince Ma Jin could become a dark horse. Of course, this was hard to say. Currently, there were some who had their strongest trump cards devoured by the ethereal tower, allowing them to advance faster than others. However, once all of their trump cards were devoured, their speed would definitely slow down. As for those behind them, as long as they accumulated sufficient strength, it was likely that they would be able to surpass them in an instant. And at this moment, at the end of the stairs, a figure was slowly moving forward. He was none other than Lin Ling. He was now on the 28th step, and could be said to be the slowest among everyone. There were only 5 or 6 people slower than him. Furthermore, the Tongshan Tower was constantly absorbing the energy in Lin Ling's body. However, Lin Ling had the space-time divine steel outside his body. A 5th grade ultimate desolate body was enough for him to last a very long time. But even so, Lin Ling still felt immense pressure. And under this mystical pressure, Lin Ling's cultivation level was rapidly increasing. The speed was tens of thousands of times faster than the outside world. Moreover, there were no hidden dangers in the improvement under this pressure. This made Lin Ling extremely happy. He had accumulated a large number of Emperor crystals, so he naturally refined them all at this moment. His 5 dantians were increasing rapidly, and Lin Ling was also rapidly moving forward. 32nd step, 40th step, 50th step, 60th step, 70th step. Gradually, he reached the 100th step. In less than half an hour, Lin Ling had climbed more than 70 steps, instantly surpassing many people. Looking at the ranking again, Lin Ling had actually charged into the top 500 among the more than 1,000 people in the assessment. Wow, this sage Lin Ling is really interesting. He actually climbed more than 70 steps in one go. This guy created a miracle in the first 2 stages, and now he's the first person to climb the most steps. Haha, perhaps he used all his trump cards to resist the Tongshan Tower. That's why he could go so far in one go. But no matter what, he's still pretty good. After all, he's only at the sage stage. In the 36 academies, some of the deans smiled faintly. Good, Lin Ling has reached the first level of the main hall. Haha, he's getting closer to the 5th level. Maybe he can pass smoothly. In the Snow Wind Academy, teacher Tsiluan and the others said excitedly. Especially Tian Ao, Luo Wuchang, and the others, each of them clenched their fists and cheered for Lin Ling. After all, Lin Ling was only at the sage stage. It was already not easy for him to compete with the strongest martial ancestors. Chapter 3555. 90 steps in one go. It was the pale-faced man, Kagura. He was extremely displeased that Lin Ling had made it to the final stage without being eliminated. Therefore, right now, he didn't even look at Lin Ling, and even hit him while he was down. However, his words caused Tsiluan and the others to fall silent. That was because Kagura had a point. However, no one knew that all of this was not as they thought. Currently, Lin Ling had only used 1/10 of his strength. At this moment, Lin Ling appeared in the hall on the first floor. This place was extremely grand, and there were many stone tablets in the surroundings. Moreover, there were many people resting there. There were all kinds of fist prints, palm prints, and words on the stone tablet. They seemed to have been left behind by the predecessors. Someone was comprehending before the stone tablet. Soon after, he realized that he had actually increased his ancestral force by 10%. In this way, not only would his strength increase greatly, but he would also be able to last longer in the tower. However, Lin Ling roughly glanced at them and discovered that these stone tablets were useless to him. Their attributes were different, so he also sat down cross-legged and started cultivating. This was because the first level of the ethereal hall would not be absorbed by the ethereal hall. It was the best place for him to rest. Of course, in this place, martial artists would not be able to recover their lost strength. Even if they could, the speed of recovery would be very slow. Generally speaking, only those who had reached their limits would rest here. The true experts would continue to move forward. Moreover, there was a limit to the amount of time one could rest here. That was 2 hours. However, Lin Ling wasn't in a hurry, so he would rest whenever he could. Soon after, he discovered that 70% of the space-time divine steel's power had been devoured. It probably wouldn't be long before the space-time divine steel was sealed. At that time, Lin Ling would have to use other means to deal with the tower. However, what surprised Lin Ling the most was that his cultivation had reached the peak of the 8th stage Saint Realm. He was just a hair's breadth away from making a breakthrough. If he could make a breakthrough, Lin Ling's world essence would grow stronger, and he would be able to stand against the Celestial Ascension Tower's attacks. 2 hours passed by quietly. Everyone in the first level of the Great Hall was forced to leave and continue up the stairs. Seeing this, Wind Snow Academy's Kagura immediately laughed. Does this Lin Ling think that hiding in the first floor is enough? He still has to take the stairs that should be taken. I think he can take 10 steps at most before he fails. Senior Apprentice Brother Kagura, I agree with you. This Lin Ling climbed more than 70 steps in one go, so he must have used up all of his Dragon God innate skill. Right now, he doesn't have any trump cards left. As for his cultivation? You're just a saint. How long can you last? Another person replied with a smile. At this moment, Lin Ling stepped onto the staircase again. At the same time, an even stronger suction force appeared, as if it wanted to suck the space-time divine steel dry. Boom. Not long after, Lin Ling's body trembled. A storm also appeared on the stairs he was on. Haha, all of his trump cards have been absorbed. Seeing this, Kagura started laughing loudly. The people from the various great temples also shook their heads. It seemed that Lin Ling had reached his limit. And the truth was indeed so. Lin Ling's space-time divine steel had finally been completely absorbed and sealed. Next, he would have to take out a new trump card to fight against the Transcendence Tower. Otherwise, he would definitely be eliminated. However, Kagura's laughter was not over yet. Rumble. Immediately, a powerful aura spread out from Lin Ling's body. Ninth Stage Saint. He had broken through. At the same time, the starlight in the void, which represented Lin Ling, also flickered. This Lin Ling actually broke through. Exclamation point. Everyone from the various great temples was shocked. This was because Lin Ling was the person who had climbed the most steps in one go so far. At the same time, he was also the first person to break through. Could it be that he didn't use up any realm essence when he climbed the 100 steps? Yes. At the same time, they were also curious about what Lin Ling had used to fight against the Transcendence Tower. His talent is not weak, and he has the dragon bloodline. He should have used his dragon bloodline to fight against the Transcendence Tower. But now, his dragon bloodline should have been exhausted. He can only rely on his cultivation to fight against the Transcendence Tower. Yes, it was as though he had seen through everything about Lin Ling. In the Wind Snow Academy, Kagura's expression was incomparably ugly. Not only did Lin Ling not fail, but he had broken through. Broken through? Fuck, this guy was the first person to break through among all of them. Maybe he just happened to be close to breaking through, and when luck came, he smoothly broke through. Someone said uncertainly. That must be it. In my opinion, with his 9th stage saint cultivation, he won't be able to last long. He won't even reach the 200th step. He'll definitely fail, Kagura said coldly. At this moment, Lord Long, who was the focus of everyone's attention, suddenly moved. He opened his eyes, and the terrifying thing was that one of his eyes was blue and the other red. Next, he used some kind of trump card to fight against the Transcendence Tower, and he actually climbed 60 steps in one go. From the 272nd step, he reached the 332nd step in an instant. Although he did not break Lin Ling's record of climbing 70 steps in one go, one had to know that he was on the 3rd floor, and Lin Ling was on the 1st floor. The pressure they faced was naturally different. Damn it! Wu Zun, who was ranked 2nd, was furious. When Lord Long was resting, he was already very close to Lord Long, only a dozen steps away. But who would have thought that just as he was about to overtake Lord Long suddenly saw through him and left him behind by 60 steps. Immediately, he used his trump card, the Arhut Dharma Sovereign, and chased after Lord Long. Looking at the others, many of them had already passed through the 2nd floor and were rushing toward the 3rd floor. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes flashed. His first Dantian had reached 9th stage saint, but his other Dantians had yet to reach that level. Therefore, he wanted to push his other Dantians to a new level in one go. Moreover, he realized that the suction force of the ethereal tower could not only be resisted by world essence, but also martial arts. Therefore, this time, he used martial arts to defend against the suction force. They were the illusory god world, the art of wind rain myriad worlds, and even the calamity-vanquishing sun bow at the last moment. These martial arts were not to be underestimated. The illusory god world was the true legacy of the illusory god, and the art of wind rain myriad worlds was personally taught by treasure god Nanwufengyu. As for the calamity-vanquishing sun bow, it was even more powerful. Bang! Therefore, Lin Ling walked all the way up to the 90th step in one go. Compared to when he had first started, he had taken a total of 20 steps. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived at the 2nd level of the hall. But in the various temples, everyone was shocked. Although no one thought that Lin Ling could compete with Lord Long, and even Wu Zun could not, Lin Ling had set the record for the longest distance in one go. This guy is really sick. Where did he get so many trump cards to defend against the power of the ethereal tower? Previously, he reached the 70th step in one go, and now he reached the 90th step in one go. Even Lord Long is ashamed of himself. Chapter 3556. Continuous Surpassing. As for Kagura and the rest, they were disgusted as if they had eaten a fly. They thought that Lin Ling would be eliminated, but Lin Ling had reached the 2nd floor in a single breath. Now he was resting there. This slap made them feel very good, and their faces were buzzing nonstop. However, Lin Ling was the kind of person who would amaze the world with a single feat when he rested, he rested on the second floor for a full 2 hours. During this process, everyone was still moving forward, and many people had surpassed Lin Ling. Of course, although they had surpassed Lin Ling, compared to Lin Ling's rocket-like speed, they naturally could not compare. On the contrary, among the crowd, a comet suddenly rose. It was Duan Wuhan. This person was the last to enter the tower. Although he did not have Lin Ling's rocket-like speed, he had unknowingly surpassed hundreds of experts and rushed into the 20th place. There was no doubt that all the major academies exclaimed because no one had ever paid attention to Duan Wuhan. It's Duan Wuhan from the Duan family. Now, no one was not paying attention to him. Some people from the Duan family were shouting excitedly at this moment. Moreover, Duan Wuhan's pace did not stop, and he actually rushed to the 12th place. At this speed, it was only a matter of time before he caught up with Lord Long. Dark horse, an absolute dark horse. It seems that Lord Long has a rival. Many people were optimistic about Duan Wuhan, looking forward to Duan Wuhan's competition with Lord Long. On the ancient stairs, Duan Wuhan stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the stairs in front of him. The current record is the 8th floor. This record will definitely be broken by me, Duan Wuhan. I, Duan Wuhan, will become the #1 person in the world. What experts of the 36 academies? In my eyes, they're all ants. After saying this, he moved forward again and gradually rushed into the top 10. An hour quietly passed, and many people's rankings were changing. Lord Long had rushed into the 4th floor, which was really terrifying. As for the second-ranked revered martial artist, he was starting to run out of strength. The 108 arhats behind him had all been sealed away by the ethereal tower, and the number of means he had to defend himself against the ethereal tower was dwindling. Right now, he could only rely on his cultivation to defend himself against the ethereal tower. What angered him the most was that Lord Long did not catch up to him. Instead, Du Qiu was getting closer and closer to him. Impossible! Wu Zun roared in his heart. He had been under Du Qiu's control his entire life. Even in this test, he was only ranked 3rd. For this reason, he had surpassed Du Qiu in the ethereal tower and become the 2nd. However, this 2nd place did not last long. Du Qiu began to counterattack, as if to tell him that forever 3rd place would always be 3rd place, and he would never have the chance to make a comeback. Pa! He took another step forward, but it was extremely difficult. Looking at Du Qiu, who was not far away, poison clouds were rolling around his body. He had already walked up 3 steps with ease, only 5 steps away from Wu Zun. Moreover, Du Qiu's pace did not stop. Gradually, it reached 4, 3, 2, 1. When he was on the same step as Wu Zun, Du Qiu suddenly stopped. He looked at Wu Zun calmly and said, "You used your strongest talent from the start. You'll definitely run out of energy later. 3rd place will always be 3rd place." As soon as he finished speaking, he took another step forward and surpassed Wu Zun. The 36 academies were immediately shocked. The cheers from the E-Villa were as loud as thunder. On the other hand, Wu Zun's face was dispirited. He had returned to the position of 3rd place. He was unwilling, extremely unwilling. However, just as he was roaring in his heart, another figure quietly appeared on the steps not far away. This figure was only 12 steps away from him. It was Prince Emogene. Such a situation undoubtedly caused the various holy halls to feel as if they were boiling water. Could it be that Prince Emogene was also going to surpass Wu Zun? Wu Zun also noticed Prince Emogene behind him. Although the steps they took were different, the jade token in his hand could roughly indicate the opponent in the vicinity. This caused a hint of ferocity to appear in Wu Zun's eyes. It was understandable that Du Qiu had surpassed him. After all, Du Qiu's ranking was higher than his. However, Prince Emogene dared to surpass him? He must be dreaming. Wu Zun looked down on Prince Emogene from the bottom of his heart. One of the leaders of the Godslayer Alliance? What a joke. He was simply a country bumpkin. Prince Emogene was a lowly commoner, so was young Master Yao. Even the other leader, Lin Ling, was a lowly commoner. Most importantly, Du Qiu had actually surpassed Wu Zun in the battle with Prince Emogene. It was as if Wu Zun was not worthy of Prince Emogene's attention. This was also a form of humiliation for Wu Zun. Originally, he had wanted to teach Prince Emogene a lesson. However, who knew that Prince Emogene would be crippled by Du Qiu? Therefore, in the end, he did not make a move. He only sneered. He sneered at Prince Emogene for overestimating himself. Now, Prince Emogene seemed to have recovered. That was good. He would show Prince Emojin that he was, in fact, an ant. TCH. Wu Zun turned around and raised his middle finger at Prince Emojin. Then he shouted in a low voice, "Supreme Demon subduing divine technique." 108 mysterious pearls floated out from his body. Each of the pearls had an arhut sealed within. They formed a huge defensive force that allowed Wu Zun to stride forward. This was his final trump card. It was the divine weapon of the Buddha God. He originally wanted to use it to surpass Lord Long. However, he did not expect to use it in advance. However, he had no regrets. So be it if he was ranked third. He just wanted to tell Prince Emojin that he would never have the chance to surpass him. Bang! Wu Zun stepped forward and smoothly advanced. Behind him, Prince Emojin's eyes shone with a metallic luster. He was burning with battle intent. He wanted to surpass Wu Zun. As one of the 4 leaders of the God Slayer Alliance, how could he weaken the God Slayer Alliance's prestige? Young Master Yao, Lin Ling, and Yi Shui had all made a name for themselves in the God Slayer Alliance. He, Prince Emojin, could do the same. Bang! Prince Emojin removed his arms and replaced them with a pair of black metallic arms. Then he strode forward as well. Everything was for the God Slayer Alliance. He was going to risk it all. As for Wu Zun, he was actually getting closer and closer to the 400th level by relying on the protection of his divine artifact. At the same time, a cold smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. With the protection of his divine artifact, Prince of Gold should have been left far behind by him. But now, he should target Du Qiu and surpass him once more. With that thought in mind, Wu Zun looked at the jade token. Then he almost blacked out. This was because Prince Emojin had not been left behind. Instead, he was getting closer and closer. There were only 9 steps between them. While he was still in shock, there were already 8 steps. Gradually, there were 7 steps. 6 steps. While Wu Zun was still in shock, Prince Emojin had already walked past him. He had proudly surpassed Wu Zun and became the top 3 experts. Wu Zun stood there stupidly, as if he had been struck by lightning. Number 4? It turned out that he was not even qualified to be number 3. He was number 4. As for Prince Emojin, who had surpassed Wu Zun, he did not even look at Wu Zun. In his eyes, his opponent was Du Qiu. From the beginning until now, his opponent had always been Du Qiu. Therefore, when he challenged Du Qiu in the past, he did not even bother to challenge Wu Zun. Chapter 3557. A change in the top 10. Great! At the 7th place, young Master Yao's lips curled into an excited smile. Prince Emojin was telling the world that the God Slayer Alliance was not to be underestimated. Wu Zun's defeat had undoubtedly alarmed all 36 academies. Prince Emojin? Who is he? I heard that he's one of the 4 leaders of the God Slayer Alliance. God Slayer Alliance? I heard that it's a major force in the 9 prefectures that has gathered many talented experts. I didn't expect the God Slayer Alliance to be so impressive. Not only that, but the current young Master Yao and that crazy Lin Ling are also the leaders of the God Slayer Alliance. The God Slayer Alliance is really a gathering place for hot-blooded youths. Many people started discussing as they remembered the name of the God Slayer Alliance. Good job, Prince Emojin. At this moment, on the 2nd floor, Lin Ling looked at the jade token in his hand and couldn't help but smile. He had rushed to the top 500, but now he had fallen back to the top 800. Moreover, there weren't many people behind him, only 100. This was because 100 people had been eliminated from the 1,000-man defense stage and had left the Transcendence Tower. As for Lin Ling's techniques, the illusory god world, and the art of windrain myriad realms, they had been sealed. Moreover, the Transcendence Tower had absorbed much of the power of the Great Solar Calamity Bow. I'll use the remaining power of the Great Solar Calamity Bow to reach the 3rd floor. Lin Ling muttered to himself. Moreover, the defense stage of the Transcendence Tower allows the use of divine weapons. Next, I should use the true inheritance of the Dark Sword and the Tyrant Song Sword. Lin Ling was very clear that he wanted to use the Transcendence Tower to raise his cultivation, physical strength, and talent. Therefore, his cultivation realm and talent were the last things he would use to resist the Transcendence Tower. While he was resting, many people shook their heads at him. Lin Ling had rested for too long and had obviously reached his limit. Shun Lu, the experts of the New Heavenly Court, and the Duan clan were all sneering. They guessed that Lin Ling's talent, realm essence, and physical strength had all been exhausted. He probably only had 1 or 2 techniques left. The third level, this was definitely Lin Ling's final destination. For this reason, many people stopped looking at Lin Ling. Of course, there were many people that were even more pitiful than Lin Ling. This was because they were eliminated and forced to leave Skysplit Tower. And after leaving Skysplit Tower, they stood in the void, watching this exciting battle of the divine realm. TSK, 2 hours aren't even enough. Lord Dragon has actually reached the 555th floor. He has successfully passed. Lord Long passed last time, so this is nothing. What I'm looking forward to is whether Lord Long can reach the 8th level this time. It seems to me that Lord Long hasn't used his trump card yet. That might be the case. Look at Du Cho, who is in 2nd place. He has also reached the 500th floor, and is only 50 levels away from Lord Long. Amazing! Du Cho was originally in 3rd place. Who would have thought that he would surpass Wu Zun and become 2nd place, while Wu Zun can only be 3rd? Are you dreaming? Wu Zun is now 5th. What? Those who had just walked out of Skysplit Tower were talking among themselves. Then their pupils constricted. This was because there were 2 more people in front of Wu Zun. One was Prince Mo Jin, and the other was Young Yao. Wu Zun was in 2nd place at the beginning. Then, he was constantly stepped on until he was finally in 5th place. Moreover, this ranking was still changing because a dark horse had arrived. It was Duan Wuhan. Trash! Duan Wuhan was the most relaxed of all. With his hands behind his back, he walked past Wu Zun indifferently and said disdainfully. The next moment, Wu Zun was in 6th place. Pfft! Standing on the stairs, Wu Zun spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression was incomparably dispirited. He had finally experienced the feeling of falling from heaven to hell. He was originally in 2nd place, but now he was in 6th place. I refused to accept this. Wu Zun's eyes were red. He forced himself to take a step forward, as if he wanted to oppose the gods. However, he did not have many means to resist the Skysplit Tower to begin with. At this moment, he forced himself forward. The Buddha beads on his body jingled. Moreover, he wanted to catch up to the people in front of him, but he could not. After a full 3 incense sticks worth of time, the people in front of him had passed the 555th step and completely passed the defense test. As for Wu Zun, at the 554th step, he finally ran out of strength. Boom! The power of the Skysplit Tower arrived. He naturally could not resist it. In the end, he was wrapped up by the Jade Token and brought out of the Skysplit Tower. Failure! Everyone's eyes widened. With Wu Zun's strength, passing the defense test should have been easy. But this guy had lost at the 554th step. He was 1 step away from passing. It could be said that he was the most unlucky of all. Wu Zun, who was brought out of the Skysplit Tower, stared blankly at the pure white Skysplit Tower. He spat out another mouthful of blood. He was originally in 2nd place, but now he was in last place. This result was like a direct slap to the face, knocking him unconscious. After he was eliminated, no one cared about him. They could not even be bothered to mock him. Everyone's eyes fell on the top 10. At present, the top 10 experts had all passed the 555th step. But they were still moving forward. This meant that they were all going to break the record. Lord Long, Du Cho, Mo Jin Tianzi, Young Yao, Duan Wuhan. Who would break the record? They would become the real number 1. Interesting. Duan Wuhan, who was in 5th place, narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. The 2 in front are trash from the God-Slayer Alliance. The God-Slayer Alliance is also very close to Lin Ling. It seems that I have no choice but to step on them. Sigh, Young Yao, you forced me to do this. After saying that, he strode forward. However, after passing the 555th step, the pressure of the Skysplit Tower increased greatly. Even Duan Wuhan did not dare to face it too casually. As for Lord Long, who was in 1st place when he reached the 600th step, he finally entered the hall and sat down cross-legged. This shocked everyone. After all, up until now, Lord Long had never rested in any of the palaces he had passed through. But this time, he was obviously treating this matter seriously. Obviously, he was only 200 steps away from the 800th step. No one would dare to underestimate the final 200 steps. No, Lord Long seems to be breaking through. At this time, someone exclaimed, causing countless people to look forward to it. If Lord Long broke through, wouldn't that mean that he would go even further? While Lord Long was cultivating, Du Cho was getting closer and closer to him. First step, second step, and gradually, Du Chou also reached the hall on the 6th floor. This made Du Chou's eyes shine with excitement. He was about to catch up to Lord Long. He was also the person closest to first place so far. Bang! Finally, Du Chou stepped into the hall on the 6th floor. The pressure around him disappeared instantly, and this made Du Chou smile. Lord Long was also on this floor. This meant that he had completely caught up to Lord Long. However, before he could laugh out loud, Lord Long had already moved forward. The 601st step. Chapter 3558. All sorts of records. At the same time, Lord Long's starlight flickered twice. This meant that Lord Long had raised his cultivation realm, his talent, or even 10% of his ancestral power. What? Du Chou's expression changed drastically. He could catch up to Lord Long and tie for first place, but he might end up like Wu Zun and be eliminated prematurely. Finally, he calmed down and sat down cross-legged on the 6th floor. At the same time, his starlight flickered quietly. It seemed like Du Chou was about to break through. This time, the various temples were shocked. After a long time, Prince Majin caught up to Du Chou and reached the 6th floor. However, Du Chou stood up at this time. His cultivation realm had clearly broken through. He glanced at Prince Majin, smiled disdainfully, and continued on his journey. Everything was exactly the same as Lord Long's. It also seemed like every expert who reached the 6th floor needed to rest and break through before continuing the competition. In an instant, everyone's attention was fixed on the top 10 experts. Everyone's emotions were surging because the competition was too intense. However, no one saw that in the distant 2nd floor, Lin Ling was already on his journey. Moreover, no one knew that his Dantians had successfully entered the 9th stage of the Sage Realm. World essence surged, and his strength rose greatly. This time, Lin Ling was using the True Inheritance Dark Sword and Tyrant Song to defend against the Transcendence Tower. These two swords were existences that could slay demons and exterminate gods. The Transcendence Tower could absorb more energy from them. Lin Ling first used the True Inheritance Dark Sword. Of course, when he used the 18 swords, Lin Ling's life force was constantly being depleted. However, his physical strength was strong, and he could recover his short life force. He could afford to deplete it, and he had already reached the 212th step. Look, that sage Lin Ling is starting to walk again. Heavens, I thought he was already eliminated. Who would have thought that he could continue? In the previous test of attack and speed, it was already proven that he's very strong and can fight those above his level. But I didn't expect him to be so strong. Moreover, he broke through. Many people exclaimed when they saw Lin Ling's starlight. At the edge of the starlight, there was a small star twinkling. This was a sign of a breakthrough. However, when many people took a closer look, they realized that there were a total of 5 stars. This meant that Lin Ling had already broken through 5 times. Boom! Everyone's hearts immediately exploded as they cried out in surprise. 5 breakthroughs? What kind of monster was this? One had to know that the highest record in the history of the Ethereal Tower was breaking through 3 realms in a row. And Lin Ling had broken through 5 realms? What's going on? Even the vice principal of the Snow Wind Academy and the others had their eyes wide open. 5 times? Even if one were to think with their toes, it was clear that Lin Ling had already left his name in the records of the Ethereal Tower, and future generations would look up to him. As for the pale-faced man, Kagura, he was grinding his teeth. He had been paying attention to the top 10 experts and had neglected Lin Ling. In the end, when he finally caught a glimpse of Lin Ling, he was shocked. Although Lin Ling has broken through 5 realms, he's only in the Sage Realm. How can he compare to a martial ancestor who has broken through 3 times? I think he's taking advantage of his lower cultivation. The pale-faced man Kagura said sourly. However, many people also had the same guess. Lin Ling was in the Sage Realm. The difficulty of breaking through and the amount of spiritual energy required was not high, and it could not be compared to the martial ancestor realm. Perhaps, the pressure he had to endure after breaking through 5 realms was not comparable to breaking through 1 realm. So he's taking advantage of his lower cultivation. More people complained that the grapes were sour because they couldn't eat too much. But soon, someone said doubtfully, he has broken through 5 realms, but he's still in the Sage Realm. Could it be that he has broken through because of his talent? Or is it because of his ancestral power? The moment those words were said, the various temples fell silent. They were not jealous of Lin Ling's breakthrough. But if his talent had also broken through, they would be jealous to death. Moreover, even if his talent had not broken through, the fact that his martial ancestor power had broken through was enough to make people jealous. What an infuriating guy. I once walked through the ethereal tower, and I only broke through one realm. My talent and foundation did not change, but his strength increased greatly. I'm so envious. Sigh. Sigh, comparisons are odious. Sigh. However, Lin Ling did not know the shock of the crowd. He continued to walk forward. His gaze was resolute. He only had one goal, and that was to reach the 555th step, the 211th step, the 212th step, the 220th step. Behind him, the sword gate kept jumping, protecting him from the power of the ethereal tower. At first, the crowd was surprised by Lin Ling's breakthrough, but when they saw Lin Ling continue to walk forward without stopping, their eyes widened. That guy is going crazy again. He suddenly increased his speed and rushed from the 800th place to the 700th place. Previously, that guy climbed the 90th step in a single breath, and no one has broken that record yet. Is he going to climb the 90th step again? Or is he going to break his own record? I don't think so. He's only in the sage realm. It's already very good that he can reach the 200th step. He probably won't have any more trump cards to defend against the ethereal tower. The 250th step is his limit. However, Lin Ling soon used facts to slap those people in the face. That was because Lin Ling had climbed all the way to the 240th step in a single breath, and he still did not stop. After that, he surpassed the 250th step in a single breath, and he still did not stop. Gradually, he reached the 279th step. The various temples were silent. The teachers and deans had all given up on checking the top experts and turned their attention to Lin Ling. To climb the 79th step in a single breath, did this Lin Ling also have some powerful trump card? But he was only in the sage realm. While they were still in shock, Lin Ling finally stopped at the 295th step. He seemed to be in deep thought, and at the same time, he seemed to be comprehending something. However, the entire temple was shaken. Climbing the 95th step in a single breath? Lin Ling had undoubtedly set a new record. Everything was as everyone had guessed. Records were meant to be broken, but Lin Ling's record could only be broken by himself. No one knew that Lin Ling had stopped because he was checking the true inheritance, the dark sword. After all, this sword was constantly absorbing his life force. Thus, after reaching a certain level, he would have to give up on using this trump card. However, the dark sword was indeed worthy of being a divine sword. It was still able to withstand the power of the ethereal tower. After that, Lin Ling continued on and successfully reached the 3rd floor. However, although there were many martial arts imprints on this floor, there was still nothing suitable for Lin Ling. Thus, Lin Ling pondered for a moment before continuing on. Chapter 3559. The Inner Demon of the Golden Emperor. This ethereal tower is truly amazing. I just broke through, and my cultivation realm is rising again. Lin Ling muttered to himself as he advanced. The pressure of the ethereal tower would allow a cultivator to break through without any hidden dangers. Therefore, Lin Ling also used up all his emperor crystals to raise his cultivation realm to the pinnacle of the sage realm. While the crowd was still in shock over Lin Ling's record, Lin Ling walked out from the 3rd floor and slowly walked up the stairs. At this moment, the disdainful and mocking voices of the various temples were no longer heard. Instead, they were filled with admiration. This was because Lin Ling was actually charging towards the 400th floor with his sage realm cultivation. Although the defensive light of the ethereal tower did not only depend on one's cultivation realm, there was no doubt that one's cultivation realm also played an important role. Kagura from the Blizzard Academy, the Duan clan from the various academies, and the descendants of the new heavenly court, although they did not say anything, their noses were clearly crooked from anger. Whether it was in the 9 provinces or the final world, Lin Ling was never a mediocre existence. On the contrary, he was rising like a comet. That's right. Even Miao Di was watching the defensive battle of the ethereal tower at this moment. Do you think this fellow will break through again? In the midst of the silence, an expert from the various academies suddenly asked. However, no one could answer this question. On the contrary, the various temples became even more silent. Lin Ling had already broken through 5 times in a row. If he broke through again, this record would probably remain unbroken for tens of millions of years. In the future, when the ethereal tower was mentioned, it would be impossible for the 36 academies not to mention Lin Ling's name. This time, Lin Ling continued to climb the tower without stopping. However, halfway through, he stopped for a moment. This was because he wanted to abandon the true inheritance, the dark sword, and use the tyrannical Song sword. This pause seemed to have caused the hearts of the crowd to stop as well. This was because they thought that Lin Ling was going to break the record again and climb the 100th floor in a row. Fortunately, Lin Ling finally gave them some face and wasn't so crazy anymore. As for Lin Ling's tyrannical Song sword, it was undoubtedly even more terrifying than the direct inheritance dark sword. However, it had the same characteristic as the direct inheritance dark sword, and that was that it was a double-edged sword. If it was used beyond its limits, it would trigger a terrifying killing intent. This time, Lin Ling walked and stopped. Finally, he arrived at the Grand Hall on the 4th floor. Then, he wasn't in a hurry and rested in the Grand Hall. When he looked at his name again, he saw that it had shot up from the top 800 to the top 200. What a freak! He really amazes the world with a single brilliant feat. Am I going to rest until the last place again and then surpass those people in one go? Many people were convinced by Lin Ling's style, but they were also secretly looking forward to it because Lin Ling was only 100 steps away from the 555th step. Perhaps Lin Ling could create another miracle and pass the test while still in the saint stage. Looking at the 4th floor and below, many martial ancestors were exhausted and had no choice but to be eliminated in the end. Only the true powerhouses were still moving forward. Although the powerhouses in this test weren't the most powerful powerhouses in the Shin 3 halls, they were still ranked in the upper middle of the Shin 3 halls. There were still many powerful powerhouses among them. On the 4th floor, Lin Ling first checked his cultivation and then nodded with satisfaction. He was getting closer and closer to the 10th stage of the Sage Realm. Then he checked his jade pendant and couldn't help but smile. Majin Tianzi, Young Beast Lord, and the others are still in the top 5. They have all passed the 6th floor and are rushing towards the 7th floor. However, it seems that after passing the 5th floor, the pressure has increased and their speed has slowed down. Lord Long was still in first place. He was at the 655th step. Second was Du Qiu, who was at the 637th step. Third was Majin Tianzi, fourth was Young Beast Lord, and fifth was the dark horse Duan Wuhan. The gap between the 5 of them wasn't that big. They were all within the 50th step. However, they kept moving and stopping. From the surface, one could see the gap between them. Lord Long's style was similar to Lin Ling's. He would rest for a long time and start again. He would climb 30 steps in one go. As for the rest, Duan Wuhan was the fastest. He moved forward steadily. Second was Young Beast Lord, followed by Majin Tianzi, and Du Qiu was the slowest. Although the last test tested the martial artist's trump cards, it also showed the martial artist's potential and combat strength from another perspective. Du Qiu seemed to be the weakest among the 5 of them. How is that possible? Du Qiu defeated Majin Tianzi and crippled him. I think Du Qiu should be stronger than Majin Tianzi and Young Beast Lord. Majin Tianzi and Young Beast Lord, the 2 leaders of the God Slayer Alliance, are indeed powerful. It feels like a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. There's also Lin Ling. Although he can't compete with the top 10, he's still the record holder. Everyone stared at the top 10 experts and whispered among themselves. As for Du Qiu, he had been staring at the jade token. Naturally, he could see the gap between him and Majin Tianzi. He was actually the slowest, which made him dumbfounded. He even estimated that in less than 2 hours, he would be surpassed by the rest and become the 5th existence. He never expected that he would end up like Wu Zun when he was just mocking Wu Zun not long ago. If that was the case, how could he face others? His goal this time was to surpass Lord Long and become number 1. Majin Tianzi, Young Beast Lord, and that Duan Wuhan who appeared out of nowhere. Why are their defenses stronger than mine? This is already the 6th level. Du Qiu's eyes were extremely cold. His body was like a melting ice cube, dripping with venom. Time passed quietly without him noticing. Behind Du Qiu, Majin Tianzi was getting closer and closer. There were only 9 steps left. Majin Tianzi was as tall as a giant. His entire body emitted a metallic luster. His eyes and expression did not change at all. It was as if he was emotionless. His cold eyes looked ahead and emitted a gem-like glow. It was as if his eyes were made of gemstones. Bang! He took a step forward, and white smoke rose from the stairs under his feet. The mysterious power of the Transcendence Tower was constantly absorbing everything from him. The pressure was so great that cracks appeared on his limbs. However, he was a puppet, so this pain was nothing to him. Even if he was crushed into pieces, as long as there was a puppet fragment left, he would continue to move forward and surpass his limits. Chapter 3560. It represented the showdown between the new heavenly courts and the God Extermination Alliance. Back then, when he fought with Du Cho, he was beaten up by Du Cho in front of everyone's eyes, and his body was submerged in the poisonous liquid. At that time, he swore that he would definitely take revenge. This had also become the inner demon of his martial path. If this inner demon was not removed, it would be difficult for him to advance further. Moreover, it was also a grudge between the God-Slayer Alliance and the New Heavenly Court. In front of the New Heavenly Court, it was impossible for the God-Slayer Alliance to submit unless they died. Bang! He was only 6 steps away from Du Cho. He was like an injured wolf, silent and silent, using his actions to prove everything. Du Cho had also noticed that Prince Grope Gold was getting closer and closer. More and more venom was dripping from his body. Majin Tianzi, you were defeated by me in the past. Today you still aren't my match. Your God-slaying alliance wants to fight against the martial god? You're dreaming. I will defeat you. I will tell you that the God-slaying alliance dares to go against the new heavenly court. That is the God-slaying alliance's nightmare. Majin Tianzi, defeated by me. Du Chao's entire body shook as he took a firm step forward. Moreover, he had finally erupted with his final trump card. He had already passed the 555th level and was vying for first place. However, the Golden Emperor had already caught up. He had no choice but to use his final trump card. He had already pushed this battle to its climax. If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. Murky cavern undying dispelling evil. He released a low shout, smoke rising from his body. The most ancient divine poison appeared around his body, poisoning everything. The mysterious colossal cavern god used poison to cultivate the Tao. It was a terrifying existence. At this moment, Du Cho changed, and his speed increased greatly. In one breath, he walked up 30 steps in a row. Moreover, he only paused for a moment before he madly continued forward and walked up 20 steps. He had left Prince Mo Jin far behind, and was only 10 steps away from Lord Long. Just like Lord Long, he was extremely close to the 7th floor of the palace. Such progress was undoubtedly shocking to all the temples. Du Chao's face was indifferent as he stood quietly on the stairs and rested. In his opinion, Majin Tianzi, Young Demon Master, and Duan Wuhan should have been left far behind. This action also tells them that they are not qualified to fight with me. Looking at Du Cho, who was getting further and further away, Prince Molan and the others were undoubtedly shocked. Prince Majin, this is your enemy. Defeat him and we'll believe in you. Me and Lin Ling will be your strongest supporters. The young demon lord muttered to himself. Although Prince Majin hadn't heard this, he knew that he still had the support of his brothers from the God-Slayer Alliance. All he could do was defeat Du Cho. Du Cho, have you finally revealed your trump card? But don't think that you're the only one with a trump card. Majin Tianzi let out a low growl. His hands moved rapidly as he suddenly slapped his own legs. Crack! A crisp sound was heard as cracks appeared on Prince Mo Jin's legs. This shocked countless people. Was Prince Mo Jin going to give up? Otherwise, why would he harm himself? However, a mysterious talisman appeared and actually reformed his legs. Moreover, his legs had turned black at some point in time. They were like a pair of legs made of rock or a pair of legs of an ancient deity. However, these legs had been petrified after countless years. However, Prince Mo Jin's aura changed after the appearance of his legs. Bang! He was like a giant as he strode forward along the stairs. He actually walked past the 20th step in one go and reached the 653rd step. At this moment, Du Cho had slowed down and was moving forward steadily. However, he was still paying attention to Prince Mo Jin. Seeing Grotto Gold chasing after him in large strides, he was startled and began to panic. However, when he saw that Du Cho had walked past the 20th step in one go, he finally shook his head in disdain. This Prince Mo Jin has hidden his trump card as well. However, compared to my trump card, he's still too weak. A loser is a loser. However, just as he finished speaking, Du Cho saw Prince Mo Jin break his own arms. A mysterious black talisman appeared and Prince Mo Jin's arms changed. Borrowing this momentum, Prince Mo Jin strode forward again and walked past the 30th step in one go. He was getting closer and closer to Du Cho. How is this possible? Du Cho's eyes were filled with panic. He did not dare to stay any longer and slowly moved forward. When he finally reached the 7th floor, he did not dare to rest and continued to move forward. The 7th floor was already the second half of the ethereal tower. He was only 100 steps away from the highest record, the 8th floor. However, after reaching the 7th floor, the pressure became even more terrifying. Even walking down a single step was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Du Cho had already used his trump card. Hence, even with his full strength, he only managed to walk past the 4th step. Then he felt a huge suction force that made it extremely difficult for him to move even a single step. It felt as if a god was looking at him. Even though Du Cho gave it his all and gritted his teeth, he still failed. Looking behind him, a burly figure appeared. It was Prince Mo Jin. The moment he appeared, his tall figure was like a god of war, giving Du Cho immense pressure. Du Cho had never thought that his defeated opponent would be so powerful. Prince Mo Jin walked past the 7th floor and continued to move forward. Gradually, he reached the 703rd step. He was only one step away from Du Cho. However, Prince Mo Jin suddenly stopped. He looked at Du Cho indifferently and said, "I've caught up to you." "Haha, Prince Mo Jin, you didn't win against me. You can't win against me. Both of us have reached our limits. Both of us will be eliminated. However, I won. I'm one step higher than you. Ha ha ha. This also means that the new heavenly court has won the battle against the god-slaying alliance." Although Du Cho could not see Prince Mo Jin, he could sense his current state. He could not help but laugh loudly. He did not lose. He still represented the pride of the new heavenly court. Bang! However, while he was laughing, Grope Gold Son of Heaven suddenly slapped his head. Cracks appeared on his head as mysterious black runes appeared. Kacha! Next, the prince's head shattered. Next, a magical force appeared and created a new head. It was pitch black and shiny. This wasn't a human head at all. It looked more like a black rock. Bang! As soon as this head appeared, Prince Mo Jin seemed to have undone some kind of seal. He also took a step forward and stood on the same level as Du Cho. The crowd immediately exclaimed. This Prince of Gold was indeed not human. Moreover, smashing one's own head seemed simple, but one had to suffer a great deal of pain in order to do so. However, Prince Mo Jin endured it. Chapter 3561. All for the Godslayer Alliance. Prince of Darkness. At the same time, Lin Ling and young Demon Master's eyes lit up. A sense of pride welled up in their hearts. It was as if they were witnessing the rise of their own brothers and allies in a foreign land. Prince of Darkness did not disgrace the Godslayer Alliance. Bang! Another step. This was a clean and efficient step. With this step, Prince of Darkness surpassed Du Cho and shocked all 36 academies. Everyone knew that the ethereal tower tested one's defense, but it was also a comprehensive test. The further one went, the greater their potential and strength. Prince of Darkness surpassed Du Cho. This meant that he had won this battle and had greater potential and strength than Du Cho. Du Cho stared at the jade token in his hand, as if he could not believe that Prince of Darkness had surpassed him. Bang! However, the jade token in his hand showed that not only had Prince of Darkness surpassed him, but he had also taken another step. This made Du Cho tremble. He felt as if the jade token in his hand was about to explode. Bang! However, this was not the end of it. Prince of Darkness took another step. He had surpassed 2 steps. Although it was just 2 steps, the 7th step was 100 times more difficult than all the previous steps. Loser! Du Cho vaguely heard Prince of Darkness's disdainful voice. Remember, Godslayer Alliance. There was even that arrogant voice. Bang! Almost at the same time, Du Cho's whole body flickered. The jade token brought him out of the ethereal tower. Du Cho had failed. Final result: 704 steps. This caused an uproar in the 36 academies. The new Heavenly Court's people also had ugly expressions. Du Cho was their final hope, but he had lost to the Godslayer Alliance. I didn't disgrace the Godslayer Alliance. It's up to you now. Young Demon Master Lin Ling. Prince of Darkness's pitch-black head said in a hoarse voice. Then he disappeared from the ethereal tower. He had already fulfilled his wish and raised the flag for the God-Slayer Alliance. Therefore, there was no need for him to continue fighting. As for him, he was proud. He believed that young Demon Master and Lin Ling would not disgrace him. For this battle, he had handed the flag to young Demon Master and Lin Ling. Everything for the God-Slayer Alliance. Prince of Darkness. At the same time, young Demon Master, Lin, and the others were Demon Master of Darkness were extremely excited. Clearly, they had also heard Prince Molin's words. Everything was for the God-Slayer Alliance. This was because the God-Slayer Alliance was also a gathering place for hot-blooded youths like them. As young Demon Master, Lin, and the Demon Slayer of God-Slayer Alliance. Without a doubt, this final battle had also made the world remember the names of Majin Tianzi and the God-Slayer Alliance. Of God-Slayer Alliance, of God Alliance of God, do of Heaven of Darkness, it looks like losing to Prince of Gold this time has dealt a huge blow to Du Qiu. Perhaps it will be difficult for him to improve in the future. Looks like only Lord Long and Duan Wuhan have a chance of breaking the record. Of the 36 academies, the deans were all looking forward to it. Lord Long was the publicly acknowledged number one. His talent and cultivation level were both above everyone else. No matter how Wu Zun, Du Qiu, and the others were surpassed, no one had ever been able to surpass Lord Long. Duan Wuhan, the Dark Horse, was the last to enter the tower. However, his speed was so fast that he was already in the top 5. Many people guessed that the final battle between the two would be between the two of them. As for young Demon Master, who was currently ranked 2nd, although he was also very powerful, he did not stand out during the entire process of entering the tower. Therefore, no one thought that he could compete with Lord Long and the others. For a moment, the teachers and experts of the 36 academies were all talking about it. I bet 1 divine stone on Lord Long to be number 1. Suddenly, the Vice Dean of the Creation Institute, one of the 36 academies, spoke. Divine stones were said to be able to cultivate the power of the gods. It was a treasure that experts yearned for the most. 1 divine stone was equivalent to 1 billion Emperor crystals. No one had expected the Vice Dean to be so confident in Lord Long. 1 divine stone? I bet 2 divine stones on Lord Long to be number 1. But soon another dean spoke up. There are exceptions to everything. I bet 3 divine stones on Duan Wuhan. At this moment, a smiling voice suddenly appeared in every temple, causing the deans of the 36 academies to frown. The Duan lineage martial god. Naturally, they knew who the newcomer was. I thought that no one would dare to bet on this. I didn't expect the Duan family's patriarch to be so interested. Very well, I'll bet 2 divine stones on Lord Long. Soon after, another dean joined the bet. Very well, I'll take all of your bets. I'll pay as many as you send. If I win, everyone must pay me 3 divine stones. Deal. The Duan lineage martial god's voice floated out again. All right. Many deans nodded. They were not afraid that the Duan family's patriarch would go back on his word. I bet 2 divine stones on young Demon Master. The dean of the E Villa also spoke. To everyone's surprise, he favored young Demon Master, but not Lord Long. There are always exceptions. Maybe Tyrant Dragon isn't going to take first place. I used the Ionic God Pagoda to peek into the pagoda, and I saw a divergent. Therefore, I'll bet 2 godstones on young Demon Lord. The Vice Dean of the Heavenly Divination Institute said with a faint smile. No one had expected that someone would favor young Demon Master. I bet 5 divine stones on Lin Ling. Suddenly, a different voice rang out, shocking all 36 academies. It was none other than the Vice Dean of the Wind Snow Institute. You're crazy. Everyone present couldn't believe their eyes. Lin Ling hadn't even entered the top 10, and hadn't even passed the 555th level. Yet someone was betting on him to be number 1? If it weren't for the distance, many of the deans would have slapped the Vice Dean a few times. No, a few dozen slaps to wake him up. Betting on Lord Long, Duan Wuhan, or even young Demon Master was possible. But betting on Lin Ling was the same as giving away money. Are you sure? One of the deans asked with a mocking smile. I'm sure. I bet on the Wind Snow Institute's name that Lin Ling will be number 1. The Vice Dean of the Wind Snow Institute said word by word. The reason he bet 5 divine stones was because someone else had also placed a bet. It was Tsong Chiri. 5 divine stones, looks like it's a waste. Many of the deans shook their heads and laughed. But at this time, another voice rang out. I bet 10 divine stones on Lin Ling. 10 divine stones? Currently, the biggest bet was 10 billion monarch crystals. Unless it was a real big shot, who could take out such a huge sum of money? You are? The deans of the various academies frowned. Emperor Miao. Chapter 3562. He had passed the trial. Emperor Miao, the #1 divine emperor in Miao Prefecture, and one of the top 10 martial gods in the 9 prefectures. She had actually been attracted by the 3 trials. Most importantly, she had placed her bet on Lin Ling. Although Lin Ling was a dark horse in the 3 trials, his foundation was relatively weak. He had not even reached the martial ancestor realm. This was his biggest flaw. Therefore, people felt that it was already a miracle that Lin Ling could reach the 555th floor. As for competing for first place, it was simply impossible. Emperor Miao, who did you say you were going to bet on? After a moment of silence, a dean asked in shock. After all, 10 divine stones were no small matter. They had to be sure. I said, I bet 10 divine stones on Lin Ling to become first place. Emperor Miao's voice rang out again, and clearly entered the ears of the 36 deans. He was telling them that he was not joking. 10 divine stones was the biggest bet at the moment. Chi. The deans sucked in a breath of cold air. They did not know what was wrong with Emperor Miao. However, it seemed that Emperor Miao had made up his mind, so they did not stop him. They knew that Emperor Miao and Snow Wind Academy's deans would definitely lose their divine stones. They might even cry a few days later. With this thought in mind, many of the deans revealed gloating smiles. Look, Lord Long is moving again. Suddenly, someone cried out in alarm. Lord Long had rested on the 6th floor for a long time and had successfully broken through. Next, he would walk and stop. Maybe he would break through again this time. Currently, he had reached the 731st floor. If he broke through, he might reach the 8th floor. The 8th floor was the highest record in the history of the Divine Tower. It had left an endless reputation among the 36 academies. The owner of this record was called Du Shijue. People also called him the martial god of 10 extremes, because he was also one of the top 10 martial gods in the 9 prefectures. This was also the reason why people wanted to surpass him. Many people thought that if they could surpass this senior, they might become one of the top 10 martial gods in the 9 prefectures. As for the second place, it was still Young Yao. He had reached the 7th floor and was catching up to Lord Long. As for the third place, it was Duan Wuhan. Although he was ranked 3rd, his speed had always been fast. Some people said that he was faster than Lord Long. This was the reason why everyone thought highly of him. Of course, in terms of speed, Lin Ling was actually the fastest. It was just that Lin Ling rested for a long time. Look, Lin Ling is also moving. Just as everyone's was their eyes locked on, someone exclaimed by Wuhan. At this moment, Lin Ling had already walked out from the 4th level of the Grand Hall. Moreover, he had even used the tyrannical Song sword to resist the pressure brought about by the Transcendence Tower. Do you guys think that Lin Ling will reach the 555th floor and pass the test completely? I don't think there's much hope, because if he could reach the 555th level, he wouldn't have rested for so long. Of course God Bull was FNN Dragon? NN was NN? In the sacred halls of the various academies, the experts began to discuss. Lin Ling had stayed on the 4th level for too long, causing many people to almost forget about him. However, Lin Ling had once again appeared in front of everyone's eyes and was striding forward. The most terrifying thing was that Lin Ling did not stop. His speed was extremely fast. He had walked to the 95th step in one go. My God, he broke the record again. He walked to the 95th step in one go and didn't stop. Seeing Lin Ling's appearance, countless people exclaimed. Even some deans stared at Lin Ling and frowned. However, Lin Ling did not stop and finally reached the 5th level of the main hall. This meant that Lin Ling had walked to the 100th step in one go. This was also the highest record so far. Lord Long, Duan Wuhan, and the others had not done it. After reaching the 500th step, Lin Ling's ranking had reached the top 200. He was only 50 steps away from passing the test. This guy, I'm afraid he's really going to pass the test. If he succeeds, he'll be the first person to pass the test in the Saint Realm. There's still the 55th step. Is it possible? Everyone was shocked. Many people felt that Lin Ling had walked through the ethereal tower as easily as drinking water. This was too uncomfortable. After reaching the 5th floor, Lin Ling only glanced at the hall and continued to move forward. The main reason was that he found that tyrannical Singer Sword's killing intent had begun to appear and shroud him. Therefore, he had to seize the time to move forward. Otherwise, if tyrannical Singer Sword's killing intent was fully released, Lin Ling would not be able to withstand it. In this breath, Lin Ling had walked to the 54th step, but he stopped at the 554th step. He's reached his limit. Haha, if he's like Wu Zun, one step away from passing the test, then it'll be interesting to watch. Many people suddenly became excited, as if they were looking forward to it. That was because Lin Ling had stopped. This meant that he might have reached his limit. Outside the ethereal tower, Wu Zun's eyes were red, and he was still cursing himself. He had actually failed at the 554th step. He had lost all face, and he had become the laughingstock of the various academies. At this moment, he saw that Lin Ling had stopped at the step he was on, and he immediately became agitated. Lin Ling, fail for me. Perhaps he was feeling very uncomfortable because he was the only one who had lost face. Thus, he wanted to drag Lin Ling down with him so that he could share the shame with him. However, as soon as he finished speaking, pung, Lin Ling had already taken a step forward. Following that, without stopping for a single breath, he actually reached the main hall of the 6th level. My eyes aren't playing tricks on me, right? He actually passed the test. Furthermore, the 100th step was as easy as walking through a garden. Heavens, what did he rely on to stop the ethereal tower? He's already in the top 50. That's nothing. More importantly, he set a new record with the strength of a saint and completely passed the 3 tests. He's now an expert of the divine 3 halls. At this moment, everyone was stirred. A dazzling historical record was deeply engraved in the 36 academies. Lin Ling's opponents in the new heavenly court and the Duan clan were fuming with anger. This was especially true for Wu Zun. His expression was as ugly as if his parents had died. He thought back to how arrogant Lin Ling had been outside the ethereal tower. How could Lin Ling not be afraid of him? And now, Lin Ling had used his proud results to tell him that he, Wu Zun, was only SO. As for the Snow Wind Academy, the terrifying cheers almost overturned the sacred hall. The vice president, Cailuan, Fairy Xan Yen, and the others all laughed loudly. They were extremely proud and excited. As for Tian Ao, Luo Wuchang, and the other former opponents, they were on the verge of kneeling. Lin Ling was truly a freak. Even if Lin Ling had given up on the next test, his previous feat was enough to earn the respect of countless people. Lin Ling, good job. Good job. At this moment, the second-ranked young beast lord looked at the jade token in his hand and couldn't help but feel excited. Chapter 3563. The first change. He, Prince of Gold, did not embarrass the Godslayer alliance. And now Lin Ling did not either. Reaching the 3rd level with the strength of a saint and passing it smoothly was a story to be told. He was so proud of himself that he almost roared out in excitement. At this moment, Lin Ling stood quietly on the 6th floor. His gaze swept across the vast hall, and he couldn't help but shake his head. The reason he chose this path was because he felt that there was something on this path that attracted him. However, he didn't see anything strange so far. It seemed that it should be in the next 3 halls. The murderous aura of the dominating song sword is getting scarier. It seems that I can no longer use it, but the potential of the dominating song sword is really scary. It allowed me to walk 200 steps from the 4th level to the 6th level. Go! Then Lin Ling checked his trump card. At that moment, his 5 dantians had not been consumed. The Sky Dragon's bones, the Great Nether Wind Dragon, and the realm-swallowing beast's talent and physical strength had not been consumed. And the most powerful soul power. Let's start with the talent of the realm-swallowing beast, then the Sky Dragon's bones, and the Great Nether Wind Dragon. Next will be the physical strength and cultivation realm. And finally, the soul power. Lin Ling immediately made plans. He also knew that from the 6th level onwards, the difficulty would definitely increase by several times. Especially the 7th level, the difficulty would probably increase by more than 10 times. Lin Ling could tell from the slow speed of Lord Long and the others. Next, he used the talent of the realm-swallowing beast and walked out of the 6th level hall. Originally, Lin Ling's goal was to pass the test, but Prince of Gold's desperate fight made Lin Ling's heart burn with fire. He was also the leader of the Godslayer Alliance, so he had to fight with all his might. He also wanted to fight for first place. Lin Ling did not stop and walked up 20 steps in one breath. The realm-swallowing beast was one of the 4 most ferocious creatures in the universe. Its defense was really scary. After the 6th level, the pressure increased greatly, but Lin Ling could still walk up 20 steps in one breath. This explained everything. And in this short span of 20 steps, Lin Ling went from the top 50 to the top 20. The top 50 powerhouses looked at the jade cards in their hands and were so angry that their noses were crooked. Lin Ling again. This guy, who was at the bottom, was now surpassing them. How infuriating. And after the 6th level, each step was difficult. How could this guy walk so fast? However, Lin Ling did not know their anger at all. After resting for a moment, he continued forward and walked up another 10 steps in one go. This time, he was only 1 step away from entering the top 20. 5 steps in front of him was an expert from the Snow Wind Academy. His name was Tang Lin, and he was very close to the white-faced Kagura. Seeing Lin Ling getting closer and closer, he couldn't help but roar in anger. Bastard! He's just a piece of trash at the Saint stage. Why is he so strong? However, while he was thinking about this, the jade token in his hand flashed, causing him to be stunned on the spot. Because he'd been surpassed. Holy shit, what's going on? Tang Lin suddenly became absent-minded. He remembered Kagura's order to stop Lin Ling from passing the assessment. But was Lin Ling someone he could stop? If only Lin Ling did not stop him. I can still surpass him. Then, Tang Lin roared and took 3 heavy steps. However, when he looked at the jade card again, Lin Ling was still above him. On the contrary, a huge pressure enveloped him like a brilliant divine power. With a plop, his whole body was smashed on the steps. He tried to stand up several times but failed in the end. He smiled bitterly, and his heart was extremely disappointed. He knew that he had reached his limit. His final result was the 640th step. He looked at the jade card in his hand and recalled the name of the mysterious man, Lin Ling. He was completely convinced. Bang! The jade card was crushed in his hand, and he completely gave up on competing for first place. As for Lin Ling, he successfully entered the top 20. Such a terrifying speed undoubtedly made many people's expressions turn serious. No one thought that Lin Ling could compete for first place, but now it seemed that he had some hope. It's indeed very surprising, but entering the top 10 is his final limit. There's no hope for him to compete for first place. In the Blizzard Academy, the white-faced man, Kagura, said coldly. And when he said that, many teachers also thought so. They felt that Lin Ling had used his strongest trump card. He definitely would not have enough strength to resist the tower. Let's wait and see. Only the vice president, Siluan, and the others believed in Lin Ling. After the 650th step, Lin Ling slowed down. Because after the 6th step, the pressure had increased by a lot. His realm-devouring beast talent did not seem to be able to hold on for much longer. After Lin Ling started to rest, everyone's eyes fell on the top 5. The first place was still Lord Long. However, Lord Long had stopped at the 750th step, and he had been there for a long time. On the other hand, Young Yao was getting closer and closer behind him. He was only at the 12th step. Moreover, the distance between them was constantly shrinking. Lord Long, let's go. Why aren't you leaving? The presidents who had bet on Lord Long were clenching their fists. On the other hand, the presidents who had bet on Young Yao were smiling excitedly. 10th step. 9th step. The distance was getting closer and closer. Young Yao was also smiling excitedly. He did not know what had happened to Lord Long, but this was his chance. 8th step. 5th step. The entire sacred hall of the 36 academies seemed to have stopped breathing. Lord Long couldn't have been surpassed by someone, could he? No, this must be fake. 3rd step. 2nd step. But the truth was right in front of everyone's eyes. 1st step. At this moment, everyone was silent. It was as if a historical moment had come. Young Yao raised his tired eyes and looked ahead. Lin Ling, Prince of Gold, Young Yao, did not embarrass the Godslayer Alliance. After saying that, he walked down the next step proudly and sat on the same level as Lord Long. Lord Dragon remained motionless, but young Master Yao took another step forward. He had surpassed him. This was the first time Lord Long had been surpassed in the Ethereal Tower. It was also the first change. The 36 academies were in an uproar. The presidents who had bet on Lord Long's victory all had ugly expressions on their faces. As for the presidents who had bet on young Yao, they laughed heartily and were extremely excited. No one had expected the ordinary-looking young Yao to be so powerful. He had done what Du Cho, Wu Zun, and the others could not, surpass Lord Long. Lin Ling and Prince of Gold, who had been staring at the jade tablet, could not help but feel excited. This first place was enough to make many people remember young Yao's name. After young Yao surpassed Lord Long, he did not stop and continued to move forward. This made people wonder if young Yao was going to be the first to break the record. Chapter 3564. Tit for tat. Lord Dragon, who had been cultivating cross-legged, finally opened his eyes. One of his eyes was blue and the other red. They were majestic, and the starlight that belonged to him flickered. This meant that he had broken through, and his ancestral power had entered a new realm. It was 60% of his ancestral power, and the additional ancestral power would undoubtedly allow Lord Long to go even further. He stood up and shouted, "Eternal heaven Tao life and death mysterious art." He stepped forward, and his speed was extremely fast. He was getting closer and closer to young Master Yao. This unforeseen event made many people's hearts beat wildly. Young Master Yao had just taken first place. Was he going to be overtaken now? Young Master Yao also sensed Lord Dragon's awakening and breakthrough. His heart sank, and he quickened his pace and continued to advance. The two of them, one in front and one behind, walked towards the 8th level. However, after Lord Dragon's strength had increased, his speed was indeed terrifying. He was getting closer and closer to young Master Yao. Level 3. Level 2. Level 1. Young Master Yao was overtaken again and became second. No one can take away what belongs to me. Lord Dragon continued to advance, but he said domineeringly. At the same time, he looked into the distance and clenched his fists excitedly. Level 8. I, Lord Dragon, am coming. After he finished speaking, the blue and red light on his body became even more dazzling, and his speed increased again. Level 769. Level 774. Level 781. Level 793. He was only 7 steps away from the 8th level. Although young Master Yao had been overtaken, he was still chasing Lord Dragon. The aura of the various demon gods appeared on his body, and he was extremely terrifying. However, this aura was also fading at this moment. The two of them were getting closer and closer to the 8th level. When Lord Dragon reached level 799, he paused for a moment, then stepped forward. Instantly, he became the first person to reach the 8th level. He was only 62 steps away from the legendary record of the 10 ultimate martial gods. Behind Lord Dragon, young Master Yao had also reached level 799. However, his face was extremely pale, and he was sweating profusely. Those beads of sweat were as big as beans. Clearly, he had reached his limit. Lin Ling, I lost. Suddenly, young Demon Lord roared and spat out a mouthful of blood. The honor of the God-Slayer Alliance is in your hands. Lin Ling and Majin Tianzi clenched their fists, as if they could hear the unyielding voice. As for young Master Yao, he completely collapsed on the 799th step. However, he didn't crush the jade tablet in his hand. With his temperament and the pride of the God-Slayer Alliance, he wouldn't allow himself to become a deserter. Therefore, he fought until he was seriously injured and completely unconscious. In the end, he was taken away by the jade token. What was even more shocking was that even though he had appeared outside the Tongshan Tower, he was still unconscious. From this, one could see just how serious the young Demon Lord's injuries were. The expression on Majin Tianzi's face changed drastically as he rushed over to investigate. Soon after, he discovered that although young Master Yao was heavily injured, his life was not in danger. The prince couldn't help but stare at the pale young demon with a smile on his face. It was his fortune to be able to meet a like-minded friend in this life. Then he looked at the Tongshan Tower. Now, it was all up to Lin Ling. Majin Tianzi had defeated Du Cho, and young Demon Lord had temporarily taken first place. What about Lin Ling? What kind of magnificent feat would he achieve? Although young Demon Lord has been eliminated, his fighting spirit is really terrifying. Yes, at least he took first place temporarily. That's enough to be proud of. After all, Lord Long is undefeated. He's much better than Du Cho and Wu Zun. Yes, Majin Tianzi and young Demon Lord of the God-Slayer Alliance are all tough bones. They're all top 10 experts. Although young Demon Lord had been eliminated, many people secretly admired him. Moreover, As long as no one could reach the 799th step, young Demon Lord would be third this time. As for second place, it would naturally be Duan Wuhan. At this moment, Duan Wuhan was still sprinting toward the 8th floor, while Lord Long was resting on the 8th floor. However, he also noticed that Duan Wuhan was closing in on him. Therefore, he sneered, rested for a moment, and immediately walked out of the 8th floor. He was only 62 steps away from the record of the 10 ultimate martial gods. His goal was to break the record. However, before he could take the first step, a terrible pressure came crushing down on him. Lord Long's body suddenly trembled, and he was forced back into the hall. What's going on? Is the pressure on the stairs after the 8th floor so great? Looking at Lord Long's appearance, I'm afraid the pressure on the stairs after the 8th floor is 100 times greater than before. Does that mean Lord Long's final result is the 800th step? Many people were frightened by Lord Long's appearance, and they were even more aware of the difficulty of the ethereal tower. The various deans were also constantly evaluating the situation. I estimate that Lord Long has a 40% chance of stepping out of the 8th floor. The first step of the 8th floor is a watershed. Lord Long only has a 50% chance. I think it's 60%. Lord Long was not discouraged in the slightest. His eyes were cold, and there was another voice in his body. It was as if he had a split personality. There was actually another person in his body. Moreover, the blue and red light in his eyes were even more dazzling. I'll definitely succeed. Lord Long roared. An ancient aura emanated from his body as he took a step forward. The entire staircase seemed to shake, but this time, a powerful and mysterious force surged out and forced Lord Long back into the hall. I'll definitely succeed. Lord Long was not afraid. He roared again, but this time his voice had changed. It was as if it was another person. He took a step forward, and it seemed as if he had unleashed his strongest trump card. This step was like the iron hoof of a war god, but also like the step of a god. Hung Long Long. The staircase shook, and Lord Long appeared on the 801st step. Lord Long did it. He failed on this step last time, so he gave up on the test. Who would have thought that he would succeed this time? He's the second expert to surpass the 8th floor after the martial god of 10 extremities. Perhaps he really has a chance to surpass the record of the martial god of 10 extremities and shake the world. In an instant, Lord Long, who was already the focus of everyone's attention, raised his reputation to the peak. People looked at him as if they were looking at the martial god of 10 extremities. Those deans who had placed their bets on Lord Long all started laughing loudly. Looking at Duan Wuhan, who was ranked second, he stopped on the 762nd step at the moment. It's only the 801st step. I thought it was so great. Wait for me, I will surpass you, Lord Long, and become the first this time. Moreover, I, Duan Wuhan, will surpass the previous record of the martial god of 10 extremities. Records are meant to be broken. I, Duan Wuhan, want all of you to remember the name Duan Wuhan. Duan Wuhan muttered to himself with his eyes closed. The moment he opened them, the wheel of fate appeared in his eyes. The first bloodline of the Duan family was also stimulated by him at this moment. Chapter 3565. Amazing the world with a single brilliant feat. A vortex appeared above Duan Wuhan's head, and with this terrifying power, Duan Wuhan finally took a step forward. Step 763. Step 777. Step 784. Step 798. Everyone was immediately shocked by Duan Wuhan's crazy actions. Duan Wuhan, the dark horse this time, was really terrifying. One had to know that people like young Demon Lord had reached their limits after reaching the 7th floor. But Duan Wuhan seemed to have just begun to use his trump card. Moreover, if they remembered correctly, Duan Wuhan seemed to have not broken through even once. If he broke through, what height would he reach? Duan Wuhan, go and create a world that belongs to you. Outside the divine tower, martial god Duan Mai smiled, looking forward to seeing Duan Wuhan stand out in the final world. Whether Duan Wuhan could become number one, from the beginning until now, he had no worries because he knew that Duan Wuhan would definitely be number one. Bang! Duan Wuhan also rushed into the 8th floor of the main hall. And without rest, he was already moving towards the 801st step. Before this, Lord Long had failed twice in a row on this step. Then what about Duan Wuhan? At this moment, Duan Wuhan stood in the main hall, his eyes calm, his face filled with a domineering aura. He gathered his strength and immediately stepped forward. However, a terrifying divine power immediately suppressed him, causing Duan Wuhan's body to tremble. His white clothes were full of sweat. It seems that, like Lord Long, Duan Wuhan is going to fail from the beginning. The power absorbed by the 8th floor is 100 times more than the previous steps. It's normal that it's difficult to take the first step. Unless Duan Wuhan can give up a trump card, his process will inevitably be the same as Lord Long's. Voices rang out one after another. Bang! But at this time, Duan Wuhan stepped forward again, and then, resisting the pressure, he stepped onto the first step. Then another foot came, and with a slight force, Duan Wuhan reached the 801st step. The entire holy hall was shocked, and everyone was breathing heavily. Duan Wuhan actually succeeded in one step. That was too abnormal. It seemed that his potential was more powerful than Lord Long's. However, Duan Wuhan, who had taken the first step, was now gasping for breath. He did not take another step forward. Lord Dragon, on the other hand, had reached the 809th stair, but he was also sitting cross-legged and cultivating. It could be seen that the pressure of the 8th level was indeed terrifying, forcing these two children of God to slow down. However, this was enough to be proud of. It was because up until now, they were the only two who had reached the 8th level. Their names would be immortal and be immortalized for generations to come. Others? Thinking about it, that was more like it. There was no possibility at all. I didn't expect that only Lord Long and Duan Wuhan would reach the 8th floor this time. That's right. People like Du Chou, Wu Zun, and Ma Jin Tianzi have all been eliminated. They don't have the qualifications to compete at all. That's for sure. If the 8th floor was so easy to reach, countless people would have reached it over the years. Heated discussions continued to ring out in the sacred hall. Look, Lin Ling is moving again. Suddenly, someone looked at Lin Ling's starlight and said. Lin Ling, who was on the 660th stair, began to move forward. The reason why he stopped was because Lin Ling found that his 5 Dantians were ready to move again. He was getting closer and closer to the 10th stage of the Sage Realm. Moreover, the realm-swallowing beast's talent was almost exhausted. Therefore, he also used the Sky Dragon's bone. In one breath, he reached the 40th stair and successfully reached the 7th level. From the top 20, he successfully rushed into the top 10. On the 7th level, Lin Ling did not rest and walked out again. The power of the Sky Dragon's bone was still there, so it supported Lin Ling to reach the 20th level. Next, Lin Ling also used the Great Netherwind Dragon. The Great Netherwind Dragon was not weak. On the 7th level, it supported Lin Ling to reach the 45th stair. The 745th stair. Without any suspense, the various sacred halls were in an uproar. No one had expected that Lin Ling would still have such strength in the latter half of his cultivation. What kind of talent does this guy have? Even if he has the divine fetus body, I'm afraid he can't hold on for so long. I heard that this guy has 2 talents. Damn, 2 talents, this is too shameless. All the focus fell on Lin Ling again. Those who thought that Lin Ling was impossible at the beginning were also a little moved at this moment. Especially the various deans, their faces were incomparably dignified. They never thought that they had missed Lin Ling. This guy is really the second dark horse. There were even deans muttering to themselves. As for the first dark horse, it was undoubtedly Duan Wuhan. The second dark horse? Not necessarily. The vice dean of the Snow Wind Academy was also excited, and his words were filled with endless praise. As for Wu Zun, Du Chou, and the others, they felt extremely uncomfortable. Where did this Lin Ling come from? Why was he so crazy? He was even more abnormal than young Demon Lord and the others. This made them depressed to death. However, compared to their anger, Mo Jin Tianzi and young Demon Lord were incomparably excited. They sighed because they could not see through Lin Ling more and more. It's him, Lin Ling? After Lin Ling entered the top 10, Duan Wuhan finally noticed him. Because of his pride, he had always paid attention to the top 10 masters. He did not expect that Lin Ling would also participate. Last time in the Starry Sky Forest, Lin Ling had disrupted their search for God's treasure. This great hatred, he still remembered it in his heart. I didn't expect Lin Ling to also come. Very good, very good. Come on, try to catch up with me. Otherwise, you will be an ant under my feet for the rest of your life. Duan Wuhan roared. He wanted to use this opportunity to ruthlessly suppress and humiliate Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling did not see all of this. After the 749th step, the supreme Nether Wind Dragon's talent was sealed. Lin Ling immediately used the strength of his physical body. This was the strength of 6,000 worlds, which was enough for Lin Ling to hold on for a long time. After the 7th floor, the suction force is really terrifying. Lin Ling also felt the terror of the second half of the Tong Shan Tower. However, the greater the pressure, the stronger the suction force. Lin Ling found that he was only a step away from the 10th stage of the Sage Realm. If he reached the 10th stage of the Sage Realm, and his 5 dantians were upgraded at the same time, his trump card would naturally be stronger. The 750th step, the 760th step, the 772nd step, the 796th step. Everyone looked at Lin Ling in shock. They never thought that when Lin Ling went crazy, he could actually threaten the 2 strongest people. What the hell is this guy? The dean of the 36th college looked as if he had seen a ghost. This Lin Ling was really amazing. Was he really going to compete for the first place? Chapter 3566. Another dark horse. Who is he? Even Lord Long, who was currently ranked first, was taken aback by this sight. Because he didn't know Lin Ling at all, and he didn't have the slightest impression of him. Never had he imagined that after Du Chou, Wu Zun, and the young master Yao had been eliminated, this fellow that had appeared out of nowhere would actually be able to threaten his first position. This was another dark horse after Duan Wuhan. Moreover, from the first step to the 800th step, only he and Duan Wuhan knew how difficult it was. The pressure could only be felt and could not be described in words. However, Lin Ling could reach more than 790 steps. This showed how terrifying Lin Ling's potential and foundation were. This was definitely an expert who could fight with a late-stage martial ancestor. Of course, Lin Ling's appearance did not make Lord Long angry. Instead, his eyes were filled with a strong fighting spirit. At his level, it was time to find a strong opponent. This way, he could fly higher and go further. He used to think that Du Chou and Wu Zun were such opponents, but now he knew that Lin Ling and Duan Wuhan were the real opponents. Haha, Lin Ling, right? Come on, try to catch up with me. With that thought in mind, Lord Dragon let out a heroic roar and took a step forward. He had actually reached the 822nd step. He was only 40 steps away from breaking the record. Lin Ling, you will definitely be defeated on the 8th floor. You will never be able to take that step. Compared to Lord Long's fighting spirit, Duan Wuhan was filled with endless hatred. He even roared directly. This showed how much he valued Lin Ling and how angry he was. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Ling walked up 5 steps and finally reached the 8th floor of the hall. What welcomed him was the biggest door, the 801st step. Lord Long and Duan Wuhan had been blocked by this step. It could be said that this step was a watershed. After stepping over it, it was a new world. Can Lin Ling take that step? The deputy dean of Snow Wind Academy muttered to himself. He should be able to. Teacher Tsiluan said with uncertainty. Tian Ao, Luo Wuchang, Solemn Ming, and the others all had very serious expressions on their faces. When it came to Lin Ling, they couldn't help but admire him. After all, he had been a new student in the First God Society and had taken first place in the Second God Society. Now, his name had shaken all 36 institutes. I hope he still has a trump card to make it through. Tian Ao said excitedly. Haha, Lin Ling has come so far. Do you think he still has a trump card? In my opinion, his talent, cultivation level, martial arts, divine weapons, and so on have all been exhausted. The 8th level is his limit. At this moment, the white-faced man Kagura said coldly, however, he should be proud because he's currently ranked 3rd. He seemed to be praising Lin Ling, but in fact, he didn't want Lin Ling to fly higher because he was getting more and more jealous. Of course, his view was also shared by many deans. In the end, they didn't bet on Lin Ling to win because they didn't want to lose their god stones. At this moment, in the 8th level of the main hall, the rolling clouds were drifting. Lin Ling stood there quietly, not in a hurry to move forward. The pressure after the 700th level is really terrifying. Lin Ling muttered to himself. If it wasn't for his powerful god-devil body, he would have been crushed to pieces. 5 dantians, I'm only a small distance away from breaking through. If I break through, the 5 dantians will be enough for me to hold on for a while. Next, I'll have to rely on my soul force. The 9th level should have what I need. I must reach the 9th level. Lin Ling's eyes were filled with determination. After resting for half an hour on the 8th level, he continued to move forward. At this moment, Lord Long had already reached the 832th level. As for Duan Wuhan, he was getting closer and closer to Lord Long 829th level. 3 levels, this was the gap between them. This also made Lord Long roar and move forward with all his might. At this time, Lin Ling moved. In the main hall of the 8th level, Lin Ling's figure appeared. This attracted the attention of countless people. Lin Ling also took a step forward. However, just as he was about to reach the 801st level, an unprecedented pressure hit him like the hand of God, pushing him back. Boom! At that moment, all the bones in Lin Ling's body cracked, and blood spurted out of his body like arrows. In the blink of an eye, there was a pool of blood under his feet. However, Lin Ling turned a blind eye to it. His eyes were still firmly fixed on the 801st level. His feet seemed to be very close to the stairs, but it became an insurmountable gap. It was as if the stairs were in the sky and he, Lin Ling, was on the ground. It was impossible to reach the sky in a single step. Haha, I already said that the 8th level is his limit. Looking at Lin Ling's starlight, Kagura of the Snow Wind Academy couldn't help but laugh. The deans of the major academies also laughed. Lin Ling, after all, was a Saint Realm expert. This was a fact that could never be changed. Lin Ling, come on, you trash, can you only go that far? Trash, from today onwards, you will forever be my subordinate, forever my aunt. Duan Wuhan also looked at the jade token in his hand and couldn't help but laugh domineeringly. He was now on the 829th level. Could Lin Ling catch up with him? In his dreams, the real first place could only be between him and Lord Long. Moreover, Lord Long was only 3 steps away from him. He could surpass Lord Long at any time and become the final first place. Most importantly, when he reached the 862nd level, he would surpass the record of the 10 ultimate martial gods and shock the final world. Haha. Thinking of this, Duan Wuhan looked up to the sky and laughed. He was quite domineering. While he was laughing, outside the Transcendence Tower, Lin Ling's starlight flickered at this moment. However, this slight flicker instantly silenced all 36 academies. Because what the starlight represented was that Lin Ling had broken through. In addition to Lin Ling's previous 5 breakthroughs, this meant that Lin Ling had broken through 6 times in the Transcendence Tower. 6 times. Such a result, in the thousands of years of time, who else could surpass him? And such a change also made Duan Wuhan's laughter disappear, but his mouth still maintained the smile. Breakthrough? Lin Ling had broken through again. Damn, who is this guy? Why did he break through as easily as drinking water? In this way, Lin Ling's hope of breaking through the Daikai stage had undoubtedly increased by another point. Many people were thinking whether Lin Ling could use this breakthrough to fight against the Transcendence Tower and reach the new world. In fact, Lin Ling had proved with his actions that anything was possible. Bang! He took a step forward, and the sole of his foot finally reached the 801st level. At the same time, his physical strength was completely sealed. Among the 5 Dantians, the first Dantian appeared and began to resist the power of the Transcendence Tower. Bang! The other foot arrived once again. It was swift and clean, swift and decisive. Lin Ling had stepped onto the 801st level. Wow! From the various temples, the cries of alarm were like a tidal wave. At the same time, the starlight outside the Transcendence Tower, belonging to Lin Ling, was completely recorded on the 801st level. And this was a new world. Chapter 3567. The 10th Breakthrough. How is this possible? Duan Wuhan, who was in front of Lin Ling, roared at this moment. As for Lord Long, his whole body trembled, and then endless fighting spirit was stimulated. However, after Lin Ling reached the 801st step, his pace did not stop. He strode forward, and the first Dantian in his body madly resisted the power of the tower. The 802nd step. The 812th step. The 822nd step. On the 8th floor, he actually reached the 20th step in one breath. He was only 9 steps away from Duan Wuhan. Lord Long and Duan Wuhan's hearts trembled in an instant. They roared and rushed forward at the same time. Boom! As if shrouded by Lin Ling's pressure, Lord Long spat out a mouthful of blood. When he reached the 835th step, his whole body weakened. His eyes were red, and he kept roaring, Hold on, I must hold on. To be able to reach the 800th step, it basically consumed 90% of one's foundation, and more depended on one's willpower. Lord Long relied on his willpower to go further. Bang! Lord Long crazily stepped forward and reached the 836th step, but his whole body slammed on the stairs, trembling constantly. Alas, Lord Long has reached his limit. He was too eager for quick success and was stimulated by Lin Ling, so he went crazy. In this way, it increased his chances of being eliminated. Many deans gritted their teeth, as if they knew that Lord Long was going to be eliminated. Looking behind Lord Long, Duan Wuhan actually caught up with him. The third step, the second step, the first step. He finally surpassed Lord Long. This scene caused everyone to hold their breaths. The first place finally changed. Duan Wuhan, create your world. Duan, my martial god, roared excitedly, as if he saw a comet of the Duan family rushing into the sky. I, Duan Wuhan, am first. On the 837th step, Duan Wuhan breathed heavily, but he could not hide the excitement on his face. He was first. Involuntarily, he looked back at Lord Long and shook his head contemptuously, then looked at Lin Ling. At this moment, Lin Ling was still in the 20th level range. Furthermore, his first dantian was being consumed at a crazy rate, and was on the verge of being sealed. The first dantian was at the 10th stage of the Sage Realm after all. Naturally, it would not be able to hold on for long. Boom. However, as soon as Lin Ling took a step forward, the stars outside the ethereal tower began to flicker once more. Another breakthrough. His second dantian had successfully reached the 10th stage of the Sage Realm. The 7th breakthrough was a record among records. At the same time, the first dantian was completely sealed. The dantian that had just reached the 10th stage of the Sage Realm was immediately used by Lin Ling. He walked forward with steady steps. The 823rd step. The 833rd stair. He was getting closer and closer to Lord Long. Such terrifying progress caused the faces of the people from the various temples to change greatly. The son of Devil, Lin Ling, was truly the representative of miracles. Boom. As he got closer and closer to Lin Ling, the starlight that belonged to Lin Ling flickered again. Another breakthrough. The 8th breakthrough. The breakthrough this time was like a bomb that exploded in all the great academies. Bang! And after the breakthrough, Lin Ling took a big step forward and surpassed Lord Long. I refused to accept this. No. Lord Long had not moved. He was already exhausted, so he was recovering on the spot. However, Lin Ling had also surpassed him. He was third. The former first place had become third? I want to make a comeback. Yes. Lord Long gritted his teeth and stood up. However, as soon as he took a step forward, he spat out an endless amount of blood and was finally taken out of the ethereal tower by the Jade Token. Failure. Lord Long, who was most likely to break the record, had failed in the end. Of course, compared to the previous assessment, he had also improved by leaps and bounds, reaching the 836th step. Sigh, he lost. Sigh. The deans who had bet on Lord Long's side one after another. The affairs of the world were unpredictable. No one had expected that the first place would be contested by two dark horses, and the most anticipated first place had been eliminated. Look, Lin Ling is getting closer and closer to Duan Wuhan. Sigh. At this time, many people exclaimed, Duan Wuhan, 839th step, and Lin Ling, 837th step. There was only a gap of 2 steps. Lin Ling, let's fight. Try to defeat me and show me your limit. Roar. Duan Wuhan's eyes were red as he roared angrily. In fact, Lin Ling could not hear him at all. However, Lin Ling could sense Duan Wuhan's anger. You were never my goal. Roar. Lin Ling muttered to himself. His goal was the 9th level. He wanted to see what was calling him. Duan Wuhan? He was not qualified for Lin Ling to pay attention to him. Then he strode forward. He was only 1 step away from Duan Wuhan. Boom. At this moment, starlight flashed. Lin Ling had broken through for the 9th time. However, Lin Ling did not seem to notice and continued forward. In the blink of an eye, he had surpassed Duan Wuhan. At this moment, he was truly number 1. This no doubt surprised all the deans, as well as all the Academy's experts. The Snow Wind Academy's vice dean and the old woman smiled excitedly. Teacher Tsiluan and the rest roared to the sky as if they were the ones who had created this legend. Amazing! Amazing! Miao Di also nodded proudly. Godslayer Alliance. Amazing. Young Master Yao and Emperor Jin supported each other as they watched Lin Ling's glorious battle record. After Lin Ling reached the 840th step, his second dantian was sealed, and his third dantian was activated by him. He strode forward. His goal was only the 9th level. He wanted to see what attracted him on the 9th level. As for Duan Wuhan behind him, he stood there in a daze. He was a dark horse, but was Lin Ling a darker dark horse than him? I can make a comeback. The honor that belongs to me will be mine. Right now, it's just a setback on my path to first place. I can cross it. Amazing! Duan Wuhan roared, and his eyes were as red as blood. He also took a step forward, and the chakras on his body were rolling. It was as if he was stepping out of the Duan family's honor and glory. He wanted to catch up with Lin Ling and surpass Lin Ling. Even if there was endless pressure on his body, he believed that he could hold on. Boom! Following his footsteps, a terrifying power attacked, actually tearing apart all of his clothes. Meanwhile, his face distorted, hysterical. He succeeded again and took another step forward. This undoubtedly gave him strong confidence. He believed that he could turn defeat into victory. He could not help but look at the jade token in his hand to see where Lin Ling had reached. Haha, it's only the 850th step. I can catch up. Lin Ling, you should have reached your limit. Maybe in the next moment, you won't be able to walk anymore. Everything shown on the jade token increased Duan Wuhan's confidence again. However, at this moment, the starlight that belonged to Lin Ling, which was recorded on the jade token, flashed again. Breakthrough. The 10th breakthrough. Chapter 3568. Challenging the record. Because he thought that Lin Ling was about to reach his limit, but who knew that Lin Ling could still break through? This meant that Lin Ling still had a method that he had not used. And he, Duan Wuhan, had already reached his limit. Puff! Thinking of this, Duan Wuhan spat out a mouthful of blood, spilling onto the steps. He roared loudly, "Why did you give me such a heavy blow when I was at my most confident? Why? Lin Ling, you are not human." No, I can't admit defeat. I am the #1 bloodline of the Duan family, inheriting the bloodline of the old ancestor. How can I lose to an ant, a piece of trash? Duan Wuhan constantly cheered himself on. He took a crazy step forward. This step was like countless swords, cutting his entire body. Bang! He fell down, suppressed by endless pressure. Above his head, the divine pagoda, the divine mountain, and the divine cauldron seemed to come from the era of the gods, suppressing him to the ground. I haven't lost yet. Duan Wuhan roared to the sky. He had bitten his teeth off, but in the end, he had reached his limit and was taken out of the Transcendence Tower by the Jade Token. In fact, if he had not been eager for instant success and wanted to surpass Lin Ling, he might not have failed so quickly. Of course, he was the first and a dark horse. Now that Lin Ling had surpassed him, how could he remain calm? Outside the Transcendence Tower, Duan Wuhan appeared. He knelt in the void, looking at the divine pagoda with unwillingness. I actually lost to him. Duan Wuhan's fists suddenly smashed into the void, creating endless cracks. He was about to go crazy. His fists were also smashed until they were dripping with blood. Even his bones could be seen. From this, it could be seen how angry he was. Wuhan, victory and defeat are common in war. Although you lost this time, you must not lose your heart of martial arts. At this time, an ethereal voice came from the void. It was the Duan lineage martial god. I lost, how could I lose? Duan Wuhan was still unwilling and crazily smashed the void. Wuhan, calm down. If you lose your mind, you will really lose. You have to know that this time, Lin Ling did it deliberately. He did not defeat you directly, but from another angle to destroy your heart of martial arts, your fighting spirit, and even your everything. So don't be fooled. The voice of the Duan lineage martial god floated again. Duan Wuhan finally calmed down. He was still kneeling in the void, but his eyes were bloodshot. Lin, the martial artist of the 36th Academy. Very well, I want to return to the 36th Academy. I want to defeat you fair and square to defeat you. It's for the best. The Duan lineage martial god finally felt relieved. Duan Wuhan had finally pulled himself together. Duan Wuhan also stood up and looked at the starlight at the edge of the ethereal tower. Over there, the starlight to the sky to the end to end. Stair 855. Step. 2. Step. Step. Every time Lin Ling took a step, Duan Wuhan felt as if he was stabbed in the heart by a sword. It was very painful, extremely painful. The more dazzling Lin Ling was, the greater the blow to him. Of course, except for him. Everyone was staring at the dazzling starlight. Alas, I didn't expect the world to be so fickle. Lord Long was eliminated, Duan Wuhan was also eliminated, and the one who came to the end was actually Lin Ling. He must be hiding some secrets, otherwise it would be impossible for him to come to this point. Alas, we all lost my God Stone. Among the 36 academies, only the Deputy Dean of the Snow Wind Academy won. Damn, that guy made a big profit. All the deans sighed again and again. However, Lin Ling is really a person full of miracles. 10 breakthroughs, TSK, it's really terrifying. How did he cultivate? How could he break through so many? 10 breakthroughs, the highest record of the Ethereal Tower. I feel that no one can surpass him in the future. What I am curious about now is whether he can break the previous record and surpass the 862nd floor. Yes, I am also looking forward to it. Those headmasters stared at the Tongshan Tower as they spoke. Although they had lost, they were thoroughly convinced of their loss. So, it turned out that Lin Ling was the true dark horse. Humph, that guy can come to this point. I'm afraid he has some hidden means. It's really shameful to rely on unorthodox methods. In terms of potential, he is not a match for my Wuhan at all. At this time, the voice of Duan, my martial god, also floated out, with disdain. However, his words couldn't even convince himself. In the Ethereal Tower, one could only rely on oneself, and not outsiders. This was a well-known fact. Unless you had some means to hide from the gods, otherwise, ordinary people couldn't cheat at all. Duan, my martial god, your Duan Wuhan was first, and then he was surpassed, so you are not convinced in your heart. However, if you say this now, it will only make people think that you are angry because you are not convinced after losing, and this will be even more embarrassing. At this time, a smile came out. It seemed to be a smile, but it was also full of sarcasm. The person who spoke was Miao Di. Her words naturally made Duan, my martial god, snort coldly and stop talking. Looking at the Ethereal Tower again, Lin Ling was still moving forward and finally stopped at the 860th step. He was only 2 steps away from the highest record. All the people in the academy held their breaths and didn't blink, afraid that they would miss this historic moment. He has reached his limit. However, someone said gloomily, "What nonsense are you talking about? If Lin Ling had reached his limit, he wouldn't have been able to reach the 8th step." Someone immediately retorted, "Haha, if he hadn't reached his limit, why didn't he go up 2 steps in one go and break the record?" The person who spoke before still insisted on his opinion, as if he knew better than anyone else. After he said that, no one said anything because what that person said made sense. Did he fail? At this time, an ancient voice suddenly rang out in the void. The god of the north frowned, and suddenly his expression changed drastically. "You are here too?" His expression was obviously very surprised, which made many people curious. Who was this person that made the god of the north so surprised? Yes, I haven't been to the Ethereal Tower for many years. I also want to see if anyone can break my record. In the void, a man wearing a loose robe and carrying a long sword on his back appeared. His long hair cascaded down his back. This person was like a god. He seemed to be in the void, but if one looked carefully, one would feel that he was invisible. It was extremely strange. My record? Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they were shocked. Could this person be the record holder, the martial god of the 10 extremities? No one had expected the 3 martial gods to be attracted to the 3 trials of the gods. The martial god of the 10 extremities was also a legend in the land of the 9 prefectures, because his talent and background were very ordinary. He relied on his own perseverance to become one of the 10 extremities martial gods. Because of this, people wanted to break his record so that they could surpass him in the future. Haha, martial god of the 10 extremities, you have come in vain. That guy has reached his limit. Otherwise, why didn't he go up 2 steps? Chapter 3569. The Unsolved Mystery of the 9th Floor. Oh, is that so? Martial god Shiju was non-committal. After the 850th step, the pressure will increase by 1,000 times. It's not impossible that he has reached his limit. With martial god Shiju's words, the crowd began to discuss spiritedly. Could it be that Lin Ling had really reached his limit? Unfortunately, No one knew that Lin Ling had stopped because his third dantian had been sealed. He was only using his fourth dantian. Therefore, not long after, Lin Ling finally moved. With one step, he was only one step away from the epic stage. At this moment, countless people were shouting. They all wanted to witness this historical moment. Lord Long, Du Cho, and the others kept shaking their heads. They did not want Lin Ling to break the record. Go to hell, Lin Ling. Duan Wuhan cursed out loud. However, it was to no avail. Bang! Lin Ling took another step, the 862nd step. Moreover, he did not stop. The 863rd step. The 864th step. The first record had been completely changed. The holder was Lin Ling. On top of that, Lin Ling was the record holder for many things. Haha, the burden of the first record has finally been lifted from my shoulders. Haha haha. Seeing Lin Ling break the record, the martial god of 10 extremities smiled. He smiled very happily. As for martial god Duan and the others, they were speechless at this moment. There was only a furious expression on their faces. However, after Lin Ling broke the record, his footsteps still did not stop. Oh my god, he can't be thinking of going to the 9th floor. Impossible, even martial god Shiju has not been to the 9th floor. How can he succeed? Noticing Lin Ling's actions, everyone was shocked. Lin Ling's fourth dantian was being consumed at a crazy rate. He knew that after the 50th step, the pressure had increased by 1,000 times. Originally, his dantian could go up to 20 steps, but now it could only go up to 10 steps. The fourth dantian was sealed after the 870th step. He used his fifth dantian, but it was even worse. He only managed to reach the 8th level. Lin Ling had exhausted all of his trump cards. The pressure on his body instantly increased, and he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Moreover, blood gushed out from his body. At this moment, he was like a mortal. Outside the ethereal tower, the crowd could see that Lin Ling's starlight was extremely dim at this moment, and he did not take another step forward. You overestimate yourself. Do you think the 9th floor is so easy to reach? Humph, with such an arrogant personality, there's nothing much he can do on the path of martial arts. Upon seeing this, the Duan, my martial god, immediately added insult to injury. Reach the limit? The various deans were frowning. In truth, they really wanted to see Lin Ling reach the 9th level. After all, he would be the first person in the history of the Transcendence Tower to reach the 9th level. Legend had it that gods could be seen on the 9th level. Now, he could confirm whether this was true or not. At this moment, Lin Ling's entire body was in excruciating pain. There were several times when he almost gave up. However, the determination of practicing martial arts since young made him grit his teeth and persevere. Furthermore, he used his final trump card, Soul Force. Moreover, it had reached 12,000 steps. Currently, he was less than 30 steps away from the 9th level. He hoped that his soul force could last until the end. Subsequently, Lin Ling took another step forward and continued forward. This step shocked all 36 colleges once again. No one had expected that Lin Ling would still have a trump card up his sleeve. Is this guy still human? Even the various deans were scared to death. What a terrifying brat. If he can reach this far, I reckon that he is proficient in many domains. Most importantly, these domains are very strong. The martial god suddenly guessed something. How is that possible? The path of martial arts is actually a race against time. How long has he been cultivating? Not only is his talent amazing, but he is also very strong in other domains. This is a dream. How can an ordinary person have so much time to study other domains? The Duan, my martial god, snorted coldly. You're right. An ordinary person can't do it. However, he is not an ordinary person. The martial god suddenly smiled. His words made the Duan, my martial god, frown instantly. He was unable to refute, and his heart was filled with anger and disappointment. Today, the Duan, my martial god, thought that it was time for his Duan Wuhan to make a name for himself. Who would have thought that all the limelight would be seized by Lin Ling? His mood was even worse than being slapped 100 times. At this moment, Lin Ling took large strides forward with the help of his soul force. 879th step. 883rd step. 885th step. 890th step. Crazy. This Lin Ling is only 10 steps away from the 9th level. Looking at that kid, even I am excited. This kid might really become a legend of the Transcendence Tower. The martial god of 10 ultimates. Even if he failed, he still managed to achieve boundless glory. That's because many of the records were set by him. Furthermore, he's also the person who has walked the furthest in the Transcendence Tower so far. Everyone was discussing. At the same time, many experts appeared in the various temples. These people were actually the deans of the various great academies. One had to know that most of the previous 36 deans were vice deans, but this time, even the mysterious deans had appeared. In the Snow Wind Academy, the one who appeared next to the vice dean was an old granny in red clothes. It seemed that she was the dean. Countless people in the Snow Wind Academy were shocked because some of them had cultivated in the academy for thousands of years, but had never seen the dean. Today, for Lin Ling, the dean had appeared. "Dean, you are here." The vice dean's eyes widened as he stared at the old granny in disbelief. "How can I not come for such a big event?" The old granny in red said indifferently. She stared at the starlight in the sky and said, "The last 10 steps. Each step is harder than the last. You have to do it in one go. If you stop midway, even if it is for a short breath, you will be eliminated." Her eyes were filled with anticipation. In these hundreds of thousands of years, there were very few things that could make her look forward to it. Today was the only time. Of course, not only her, but the deans of the other academies were the same. This step can only be taken forward and not backward. Hearing this, the vice dean nodded solemnly. There were not many chances left for Lin Ling. In the history of the Transcendence Tower, he is the first person to walk the furthest. We all hope that he can reach the top and see what is on the 9th floor. The old granny in red said with a burning gaze. This was because this was an unsolved mystery of the 36 academies. Therefore, if Lin Ling could reach the 9th floor, he would be able to see the ancient secret and tell the 36 academies about it. Under the gazes of the crowd, Lin Ling gritted his teeth and took a step forward. With this step, endless illusions appeared. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, life, old age, sickness, and death. However, this power of law was completely blocked by Lin Ling's soul force. When Lin Ling's foot landed on the steps, the void outside the Transcendence Tower exploded. There were still 9 steps. Chapter 3570. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Within the ethereal tower, Lin Ling's long hair danced wildly in the wind, and a hint of madness could be seen in his eyes. It had been a long time since Li Xiaoyao was reborn. Moreover, he knew where his enemy was. However, he was still quite a distance away from the height of his enemy. This was like a huge obstacle in life, blocking his path of martial arts. And what Lin Ling wanted to do was to cross that big character. "Lin Ling, you're finally here. But I can tell you that you won't have the chance to take revenge in this lifetime." When Lin Ling raised his head, martial god Wen Tian's disdainful face appeared in the air. "In your dreams," Lin Ling roared. A powerful soul force enveloped his body as he took another step forward. Throughout the entire process, there was no pause at all. It was simple and brutal. Rumble. Almost at the same time, the Tongshan Tower in the sky shone with a pure white light, illuminating the entire sky. What happened? The god of the northern region, the martial god of the 10 extreme, and the others were all shocked. This was the first time they had seen such a scene. The people from the various holy temples were looking at Lin Ling's starlight. He was still 8 steps away from the 9th floor. "In your dreams." At this moment, Lin Ling had no idea what the outside world was thinking. His gaze was fixed on martial god Wen Tian. It was as though the ethereal tower was aware of Lin Ling's inner demons, and it was actually using them to suppress Lin Ling. Bang! The soul force of 12,000 steps burst out, bringing Lin Ling up another step. How terrifying! What other trump cards does he have that he can actually make it this far? Within the Snow Wind Academy, the old lady in red said in shock. She had a feeling that the final few levels of the ethereal tower would contain as much power as the entire ethereal tower combined. However, Lin Ling still advanced. Furthermore, he was only 7 steps away from the 9th level. Could it be that Lin Ling was hiding some kind of ultimate technique? In fact, it wasn't just the 7th step, because at this moment, Lin Ling had taken another step, the 6th step. "If I can teach you, I can definitely destroy you." Inside the tower, Lin Ling roared. In his eyes, this was no longer the world of the tower. There was only martial god Wen Tian in his eyes. He raised his foot high into the air, and void lightning appeared all around him. This was a power that could only be found in the void, and it continued to spread throughout the entire Transcendence Tower. Outside the ethereal tower, a thunderous rumble could be heard. Rumble! The void immediately exploded. The void that was originally filled with light was now occupied by lightning. God's back garden is also changing. The expressions of the god of the north and the others changed drastically, and they frantically retreated. Die! In the ethereal tower, Lin Ling took another step forward. It was as if he was stepping on Wentian martial god. Everything shattered, and martial god Wentian was stomped into a wisp of green smoke. Xiao Yao, I knew you would come. You would definitely come. However, this time, an extremely beautiful woman appeared. She wore a crown and a dragon robe. She had her hands behind her back, and she looked at Lin Ling calmly. And she was none other than the glazed empress. However, compared to the innocent girl in the past, this woman had become a god emperor. She had unified the spring and autumn period, and everyone in the 9 continents had submitted to her. However, Lin Ling didn't take a step forward in the face of such an empress. Instead, he clasped his hands behind his back and looked at her indifferently with an aura that wasn't weaker than that of the empress. Tian Liuli, you knew that I would come back. Lin Ling said calmly. I know you're not an ordinary person and will definitely come back. Unfortunately, I've been looking for you for so many years, but I can't find you sooner or later. On the contrary, you've gradually grown up. Sai, why bother? Even if you've grown up, you'll never be my opponent. It's better for you to live an ordinary life, and I'm willing to accompany you for life. I'll give you whatever you want. Luli Empress suddenly looked at Lin Ling affectionately and said, Do you know? In this life, there are very few people who can make me fall in love. Only you, Li Xiaoyao. Moreover, it's no longer the same as before. There's an even stronger God's world above our heads. Regardless of whether you or I are God's prodigies, it's impossible for us to surpass the gods. So why fight? It's better to let everything go. Luli Empress's voice was very gentle. Haha, Tian Liuli, you are afraid. However, Lin Ling looked up to the sky and laughed. He was indescribably domineering. I am afraid. Luli Empress immediately frowned. You are afraid that I will surpass you. You are afraid that I will kill you. So, you are using these temptations to stop me. What a joke. I have come this far because my martial arts heart is so firm. Even if the sky falls and the earth rends, it will not waver. Tian Liuli, I will find you. Wait for me. After Lin Ling laughed, he paused after every word, and his gaze was incomparably firm. You keep saying that you will give me everything, but in reality, you want me to be your subordinate and be controlled by you. What a joke. You have found the wrong person. How can I, Li Xiaoyao, be someone who can be easily controlled by others? Lin Ling raised his foot, and a terrifying soul power surged, enveloping the sole of his foot. Immediately, endless divine fire appeared in the surroundings. Within the god's tower, divine fire overflowed. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was rending. Moreover, divine fire rushed out of the god's tower and burned the entire void. In the void, divine lightning roared and divine fire raged. The entire god's tower shook violently. This also caused the void to shatter continuously. The 36 sacred courts were also shaken. A small portion of divine lightning and divine fire actually passed through the sacred halls and wreaked havoc. The momentum was so loud that it broke eardrums. Some of the weaker experts spat out mouthfuls of blood. Sacred altar of ancestors. Seeing this, the faces of the various deans changed drastically. They roared and floated up, their bodies erupting with peak ancestral power. 100% ancestral power. These ancestral powers were like ancient stone pillars that sealed the sky, preventing the power of the god's tower from reaching the various sacred halls. With these experts taking action, the cracks in the sky of the sacred halls gradually came to a stop. The deans who had taken action heaved a sigh of relief. Thinking back, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Lin Ling, in the god's tower, had actually affected their life and death. How terrifying. I'm back. However, at this time, Lin Ling took another step forward in the god's tower. It was as if he was going to surpass the heavenly glass. Ka. The god's tower shook violently once again. The sky of the sacred halls, which had just calmed down, started to crack again. The sacred halls were shaken. Not good. This time, the 36 deans finally took action. Their actions were completely different. They used 10% of the power of gods. This power was ancient and eternal, just like the laws of the universe. 36 ancient pillars that were even larger than the previous ones suppressed the sky. Moreover, if one looked carefully, they would see that there were chains attached to these ancient pillars. These chains were so dazzling that they were somewhat dazzling. These chains were connected to the void, and in an instant, the 36 ancient pillars appeared, connected by the chains. Wow, is this the Dean's attack? You're tuning in to the Blee Maze Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.